All right, I'm back. My internet just fucking went out. Fucking
Oh, I was just kind of pointing at myself. I'm one of those people who I'm a gay man, but have had like girlfriends in the past. But it's
Okay.
because like I was in the closet or like thought I was bi for 2 months, and then I was like, wait, that's not true. The just because you like I am able to physically have a sexual interaction with a other human being, that doesn't change maybe what my actual attraction is, just because someone is making a choice otherwise or for some reason is suppressing why they so it's just like just that this whole I just want to really dispel this idea that like if a person who has had a this X relationship before now expresses an opposite sexual attraction, that sexual attraction is somehow slightly less valid or it's not valid. That's sort of like
And it's the problem with putting people within these labels, because sexuality being a spectrum, right? So like, and people kind of can move on that spectrum, right? As to like who you're attracted to throughout your life. The impulses themselves are less or less of a choice, right? Whether you engage in them are a choice, right? You can like decide you may not be attracted to men previously, but then I don't know, something happens, and yeah.
Can I ask Fab a question though?
yeah.
Sure.
Fab, are you characterizing everyone who engaged in sex with the opposite sex as just like in hiding? You don't think that there are people that legitimately can feel that way?
No.
Insane?
I'm pushing against the idea that like how you the sort of that one person that you talked about. It's sort of like you knew that they had relationships with the opposite sex, but now they identify as a gay person. It's that their identity now, or like how that person understands their sexuality and is putting the label on it that we are inventing.
Yeah.
That label and how they understand their sexuality isn't more or less valid because of any action that they take in the past or the present. So just because they identify as a gay person, as a gay man, as an example, if that gay man gets finds a woman and is really suddenly just really attracted to them and wants to have sex with them and does, but still identifies as a gay man, that doesn't. That person. It's more for me. It's more like that person, how they wish to identify. That's up to them. Period. Like if that person says that they are a gay man, but they have sort of like. It's just like that's how they understand their sexuality, and for anyone else to sort of question someone else's sexuality is what like is sort of a cringy.
Yeah, and I agree with you, which is why I made the claim that people can choose whatever sexuality they would like.
They can choose, they can choose the label that they put on their sexuality, how they understand their sexuality. They don't choose their sexuality; they choose the label they place on their sexuality, and they make choices of actions. But actions aren't sexuality.
Yeah, it's almost like the discrimination is to say you are not adequately heterosexual. It's not a question about whether all the people that are discriminated against. It's not about whether they perfectly fit into one category or another. It's about the fact that they don't fit as heterosexual.
Wait, real quick. Okay, so oh boy, I don't know where to go with this, or I kind of do, but it's kind of controversial. So I do think that society shouldn't, I guess, discriminate against people based on their sexuality, like at all. But I do think that these labels shouldn't be like so broad that like someone who is like who says they're gay should be able to like I don't know, like be sexually attracted and have sex with like women and like still hold that label. That makes no sense to me, at least. I would argue that like that person should probably adopt like a better label for what they actually are, instead of just trying to hold on to being called gay for some weird reason. Like,
so would you say gender fluid people should just be discriminated against?
no,
So
no,
somebody
I'm
that's
not.
gender fluid.
I literally just
No,
said people shouldn't be discriminated. I'm just saying these labels should
no,
have some meaning
no, no.
behind them, right? Like,
Yeah, but when you say that people have to fit into a label, if there's a person that's gender fluid and they fit in, they feel like, hey, I'm a female right now, and hey, I'm a male right now, should we say they need to choose one, or
the
like you're
you
basically
literally
saying
already
if your
said the
life
label
has-
by calling it gender fluid. What the-
But gender
this-
fluid itself is a broad label that could include people who of various
Yeah, but
different.
not all
expressions.
labels are broad, though, right?
But you're
and, like,
arguing
not
against,
all
but you're
labels
arguing
should
against,
be
like,
broad, right?
having, You're arguing against broad labels, but then you're saying the label of gender fluid that is broad is
No,
valid.
okay.
You're
Not
saying
all
that-
not all labels are
what's
like
confusing.
as okay, no, okay. No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. So even though some labels are broad, doesn't mean that like all labels are broad or should be broad, right? So like for certain labels, like I don't know, like we label like elephants because they have certain characteristics, right? We shouldn't just broaden like the label elephant just cuz, right? Like we have these labels for a reason. So even though I think that like people shouldn't be discriminated because of like their sexuality or like their gender, I do think that these labels should have meanings behind them, just so people can like actually have conversations, for one. Because like if gay can like literally mean like basically anything, like then what does gay even mean at that point, right? Like what is that?
It's sort of like it's more if that person is saying I'm gay and
Yeah.
they are, if the label of gay is that person is sexually attracted to men, gay man, sexually attracted to the same sex.
Yeah.
If that person, if they, it feels very, very much like a purity test of like that person who identifies as gay. They want, they in the past they were dating women, so that person shouldn't identify as gay because they don't fit the actual definition of what it means to be gay, which means to only be sexually attracted to men.
Sure. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. Hold on. So the past part, I agree with. Like, if in your past you like experimented and like found out, oh, like I'm not actually attracted to women, and like I only am like attracted to men now, then yeah, I would still call you gay. But like, if you are
gay, bro?
If you like are attracted to women and like also date women and like also have sex with women, why are you scared of like calling yourself bi? That's like my question, right?
That's what it is.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
that's a whole
like-
other topic.
So like let's just I think we can find some common ground. Like let's say, well, maybe not, maybe there is none, but let's say someone only is let's say a man is only attracted to women and has only had sex with women and only ever will. Can they call themselves gay?
No.
Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think
All right.
anybody
Hey.
would disagree with his
Here we go.
take, though,
Well,
right?
wait, what about a married man that comes out like midlife? This happens on a regular basis. I think
We
that
were
they
just
just
talking about
changed
that.
Well,
their sexuality.
then-
and called
then
themselves
they're-
gay. Yeah,
well,
that's fine.
Well,
Yeah.
then, well, yeah. Again,
It
they were.
depends on the individual.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on, everybody. Brento, do you have an issue with that?
No.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm just
so-
making sure. I'm just making
so
sure that's not the contention. Right?
The gay men who come out like who like are married but like come out as like gay later, that's perfectly fine, because like one of those things weren't being met, right? Like they probably weren't like actually sexually attracted to their wife, right? So like they were gay their whole time, but because
But
of
who are you to say that?
society's
Why can't
standards.
why can't they just have chosen later in life to be gay? Who are you to say that? Oh, they were just confused their entire life. It had to be this other way.
No,
Well, if they wanna- if
I'm
they
not.
wanna choose-
I'm
well,
not.
hold on.
I'm not saying they were confused. I was talking about how, like, the reason why we this thing happened in the first place with like closeted gay men who were married to like women came out. It is because like if they were like actually outwardly gay during their time, they could have been killed or like lost their job, like many things, right?
Yes,
like there's
yes. No-
yeah. So
no
so
one
like
is
they were
denying
they were
that.
still gay. they were just trying to stay or do well in their current
No
society,
one on this entire panel is disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that the opposite scenario can also happen.
We're talking in circles. Like we're super fucking talking in circles here, guys. Like, look, just because like you have fucking.
How are you doing?
Sorry, go
Noro,
ahead.
by the way.
Oh, I just want to chime in real quick for like a quick thing of vocabulary that might help, like, because this conversation is really confusing for everybody. Like, not that everybody's stupid, just that these topics are really confusing. For something that I learned when it comes to trans issues helps me sort through these a lot. So when you talk about a trans person, you have two different concepts. One is called gender identity, which is the thing that you innately feel you are, and then one is the gender expression. And gender expression is like a lot more into kind of like cultural norms and how you present yourself. I think that typically, although since we're pushback against it, like typically would say you don't choose your gender identity. When you say that you choose your gender identity, what?
I said I disagree, but keep going.
Okay, well, most people would say that you don't choose your, yeah.
No, go ahead.
If you let him finish, and then you can decide if you agree or disagree.
So most people would say that you don't choose your gender identity because that identity is something that's kind of innate to you. Now, that's not to say that it couldn't change over time, but it's not something that like you can just like choose differently on a whim. So like if you identify right now innately, you kind of feel like you're a male or masculine. You can't just be like, oh, I want to feel like I'm female now. And then boom, you change. That gender identity is a little bit less malleable, not necessarily mutable. It might change over time, but like that's just like an innate feeling. Now your expression, the way that you choose to express yourself, that can change every single day. You might be non-binary or something, and maybe one day you decide to go out wearing a dress. Maybe another day you decide to go out wearing, jeans and a t-shirt or whatever. That can change on a whim. I would compare this to like the discussion you're having on sexuality in terms of like the sexual identity that you feel inside versus the way you express yourself. The sexual identity that you might have, your sexuality, you might be gay, but maybe you're married for a variety of reasons, just because, maybe you're scared to come out of the closet, maybe you're in denial about your identity, et cetera, et cetera. Just because at some point you come out doesn't mean that you turned gay. It means that the way that you expressed your gayness changed. But innately, that was something that was with you for a much longer period of time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with almost everything you said, but this is the question I would ask you. If there's a person who said that my gender identity has been male for the majority of my life, but now I am choosing to identify as a female, would you say that person is not true trans? So my claim is that you can choose your sexual identity. The problem is that I don't think in our current understanding, I don't think we would ever say you can choose it, but we can't really make statements about other people's gender identities because those are to jerk off phenomenological, right? So these are things that we experience. It's a phenomenon that we experience, and nobody else can ever experience that for you unless there was like some maybe thing that you shoot into a person's brain to see it. So we can't really tell anybody like you were a man your whole life and now you are innately a female. That's just a personal experience. I agree with you, right? So we can say that there are different phenomenological experiences. And we can say that there are some people who feel like they can choose it, and there are some people who feel like they can't. So if we take that entire subset, we have to say that it's possible to choose your gender identity.
I would fight with those people, and I would say, no, you can't choose your identity. That's just not how that works. I don't agree with that.
But you agree that there's no grounds for that argument because it's phenomenological experience, right? So
yeah, but you don't typically. It's kind of like that's kind of like saying that you can change the way that you. If we look at this phenomenologically, it's like saying that you can change the way that you experience the color red. I don't believe you can. I don't think you can just change the way you have an experience. The same way that your gender or sexuality might be an experience you have.
If your presupposition is that it's immutable, yeah, that's true what you just said. But if it's not, then that's not true, right? You're making
an experience could change over time for a variety of reasons. But I don't think it's something that you can just change your experience on a whim. I don't think that's typically how we understand gender. I guess maybe it might be possible in some very niche cases that maybe somebody's brain can do that. But I think in general, I think that our feelings of the gender that we are pretty innate things that don't just change on a whim. We can't just choose to change those. If that was the case, the easiest examples that I would choose for this, if that was the case, there would be far fewer gay people and there would be far fewer trans people. Because any trans person that has dysphoria would just say, oh, well, I'm just going to choose to change my gender identity to match my whatever I'm feeling dysphoria. And then boom, my problem is solved. Or any gay person that feels like horrible because their family doesn't accept them or they can't find happiness. I'd be like, okay, well, I'm just going to change my innate sexuality to be straight, and now all my problems are solved.
Yeah,
Fucking
Well, it's like it kind of
true.
exists on like a spec. It's like it kind of exists on a spectrum, right? Like you can be over here, or you can be over here, or it can sort of fluctuate over
and I think
periods of
because
time in
it's
your
like,
life or through different life experiences and
I
whatnot.
think
Right?
because it's not something you can see. You can't we can't put a plug into your brain and then look into the code of your brain and be like, oh look, this person's supposed to be, gender queer, and then like tell that person like your identity is gender queer. Like we can't tell that person that, and that person understanding their gender identity and then how they express it may change because they themselves are just trying to understand their identity.
Yeah, I think one thing we have to be really careful in this conversation is we can't confuse like the changing evolution of our identities as choosing different identities. So, for instance, it might be totally possible, maybe probable even, that us being like gay or straight or trans, that these aren't like biological things, but they're more kind of environmentally shaped things that happen at a very, very early age. But we still wouldn't say that we choose them, right? Just because something changes over time doesn't necessarily still mean that we're choosing those things. Right?
It matters
I agree
though
with
whether it's
everything you're saying, but I
socially.
still think you're using your framing to justify your overall point. And I understand that there's no other way to do it. I don't think you're being dishonest there, but I think everything that you're framing is that it's immutable, and you're stacking things on top to say this is why it's immutable.
I don't. I mean, could you? I mean, I could ask you. I guess you could just lie to me. I couldn't think right now of like, now I feel like a woman. I don't think I could do that. I don't think most people could do that. I don't think, or actually, well, my question, I guess, then the challenge that I would give to you is how do you explain like a trans person killing themselves? This has to be the dumbest person in the world, right? Why would you kill yourself when you could just think yourself to be the gender that you want to be, or the gender that you are having dysphoria over, right?
I'm not saying that these aren't complex situations. I think what you're doing is trying to simplify it a lot. Like,
no, I'm not trying to simplify it.
No, I think that people can choose their gender, but that doesn't mean everyone is going to make that choice that's best for their life, like you're saying. Like,
why would you choose abject misery, especially depending on the severity of the dysphoria?
Because they want to really live as the gender that they have construed themselves to be, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
But you're pointing to the language you're using points to an inner desire, right? Maybe they really want to live that gender and they can't choose differently. Yeah.
No. Think about this. Let's say I wanted to be a woman, but I think society is not going to accept me. And through the depression of society not accepting my gender identity, I committed atrocity to myself. I think that can happen, but I don't think that's in exclusion to any of the arguments that I made.
I just, the question that I don't understand, that I still haven't got an answer from, is I don't understand why any trans person would ever kill themselves over dysphoria when they could just think themselves the other gender. Like, if you're a trans woman and you don't have money for HRT and the facial reconstruction and you feel like you just experience just horrible dysphoria on a daily basis, why be a trans woman? Why not just be like, fuck this, I'm just going to be a cisexual male. This is so dumb. I'm not going to be a trans woman anymore. I'm just going to think myself a male. Like, why wouldn't
well, hold up.
just do that?
It can be at least like a belief about yourself in that sense. Like, I mean, the answer to your question is why would anyone ever kill themselves ever, right? It's the same answer.
Well, I mean, because you could kill yourself because of external factors, right?
Yeah,
well, that's
true.
why trans people usually kill themselves because of external factors, right? People not accepting them, right? Like,
well, no, but we're talking about a self-imposed belief. Why would you ever kill yourself over a self-imposed belief when we're implying that a belief is something that we can change? I don't like the word.
Because our belief systems can cause us to do things, right? Like,
yeah.
Why
would you kill?
Why do people?
Please don't cyber this.
But if you could just like change it, then why would you need to?
No, I mean, people.
No. What you like?
Go ahead.
Let's say, why do people smoke even though they understand smoking is going to cause them lung cancer and they're probably going to die from it, right? That's basically what you're asking me.
No. That's a way more complicated.
It's called addiction, right? Like, there's a difference between the two. What the fuck?
Well, the problem is that's just like when you talk about things like smoking, we're talking about like our inability to see long-term gains versus short-term pleasure or whatever. That's not really the same thing. It's not like a trans person's getting like some short-term.
No, I'm not equating smoking and trans. I'm just saying that people do things because of their psychological impulses, and you're asking me to define why. I don't. Like, I don't know anyone that could give
I'm just saying, here's all I'm saying. If I walk into some area, okay, and I see that somebody killed themselves, and they killed themselves because of some particular thing, my default assumption would be whatever thing they killed themselves over, they probably felt like they couldn't do anything about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't kill themselves over it.
That's exactly true. Yeah.
And maybe there's a person that thinks that, hey, I can't change my gender, and that's why they do that. And maybe there's a different person that thinks I can change my gender, and they actually do, right? But that doesn't invalidate the serious like problem that the trans person had that unfortunately led them to that situation. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I still disagree, but I don't want to. We don't have to keep harping on this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll just let it go. I mean, yeah. I was just gonna say, like, about like there's things like it's just the general answer to your question, like you've heard of Jonestown, right? The cult people, they followed the guy down there and they all drank the Kool-Aid except for the ones that didn't, and they had to get those people. It's just to say the answer to your question of why anyone would ever kill themselves for any reason is this way you gave the right answers because they feel they're in a situation they can't possibly escape, right? But committing suicide does not necessarily validate any belief.
Go ahead, Spectre. You want to say something?
Yeah, Gambit, I'm just curious. Why is it so important to you that it's like we recognize that it can be a choice to be gay and that it's not just like something that happens to people? Like, I mean, what are you defining as choice here? Like, why is this a distinction that you feel
because he wants to make people feel bad for being gay.
Well, I asked Gambit. Hold on.
Yeah, he asked me. Maybe you weren't here when this started. All of this started because something was said, and I said I believe that all behavior is a choice, and all of this conversation has stemmed from that. So I think me being a heterosexual male is a choice. I don't think it's something that is deterministic.
You think that you being a heterosexual male is a choice, and you're defining a heterosexual male as somebody who has sex with men. However, you're not saying that you choose to be attracted, and you're saying that you choose to. What? Can I finish? Holy shit!
No.
Go ahead.
What? Spectre, I never said I have sex with men. What? I don't get what.
No, that's not what I'm fucking saying, dude. That's not what I'm fucking saying. I'm saying that you're defining a heterosexual male as somebody who is having sex with women, not necessarily.
You said men, Spectre.
Oh my god. Okay.
That's why. That's
so you're defining. Sorry. You're defining a heterosexual. Holy shit, dude.
Okay.
We can just talk over each other. Are you defining?
Okay. One at a time. Okay. One at a time.
Hold on. There must be a delay because I'm on my phone. I said that a long time and I was listening to him. If I'm talking over you, it's because there's a delay. It's not because I'm trying to.
Okay. Right on. I'm just asking, are we defining like your definition of a heterosexual man seems to be somebody who is having sex with women. It's very action based. What most people, when they say a heterosexual man, they're talking about somebody who is attracted to women, right? So it's like you're saying, I choose to be a heterosexual man. Are you saying that you choose to be attracted to women, or are you saying that you choose to have sex with women, like, or both?
Okay, good question. Wow, a lot of this goes into that conversation with RGR and Dino. But okay, how do I define heterosexual man, right? I think your actions are just as important as your beliefs, and I think if they're incongruent, I don't know what to do when they're incongruent.
When they're incongruent, that was the whole reason for that vocabulary earlier of expression versus identity. Then we can talk. We don't have to have a congruence. There can be an incongruence between these two things.
Yeah, but when you say heterosexual male, that presupposes a lot of that, right?
Another quick dichotomy.
Gender expression are different from heterosexual male, right?
Sure. It's not, another dichotomy I can offer here for some people is there's a difference between sexuality and romanticism as well. So you can be heterosexual, or you could be heterosexual, but you could be bi-romantic. Or like for myself, so I can be personal here. I'm bisexual. I'll have sex with men. I'll never fucking date a man. That's gross to me. Okay, so I would consider myself to be hetero-romantic, but I'm bisexual sexually. So there's like another piece of vocabulary that can help elucidate that a little too, if you think about it in those terms, separating like romantic relationships with sexual activities.
Yeah. So Spectre, that's how I would answer that.
So
good job.
I wanted to ask you about that because someone actually used Stephen. Someone brought that up because of what you said here like 2 days ago or so, saying that you like thought yourself into being bisexual, like you reasoned yourself into bisexuality, right? How does that fit into this conversation?
Sorry. Okay. I was counting the factors. I think that when I say I think myself into something, what I'm really saying is that I think about the reasons why I feel a certain way, and then I try to figure out if those reasons were real reasons or if those reasons, like after some analysis, can be taken apart a little bit. So like an example I would say is that like I don't think my innate attractions towards different races of people changed, but until I was like 20, I think 21, I always just thought like, oh, I don't think I could ever date a black girl. I don't think so ever. But the reason wasn't because of an innate attraction of black people or disattraction. It was just because of like dumb ideas I had. And then when I actually started meeting more black people, I was like, wait a second, I could totally date a black girl. Like, this is stupid as fuck. So like, I would say in there, like, oh, I thought my way to race. It's not really so much of thinking about it. It's more just kind of like taking some time to be introspective and reflecting on like, well, what are you actually desiring, right? Like, do you want this thing because of an innate desire, because it's something you truly want? Or is this more like a socially driven thing that maybe you can think about a little bit, reflect on? It's just how I would say that. It's a little complicated.
Okay. Empress, you want to say something?
Yeah, interestingly, I'd say that's actually very similar to the experience I found myself having over the course of transition. Sort of like realizing I was realizing first I was non-binary, then realizing I was trans, and then realizing that I wanted to undergo transition. A lot of it was like sort of reconciling this kind of internal logic I'd built up with these irrational things I was thinking, despite the fact that I very clearly felt a certain way. So like I think like my entire life I've had leanings towards, being femme, right? I said I'm non-binary, but femme leaning, right? And kind of for a bunch of, whether it be toxic masculinity or patriarchal structures, sort of had this like wall of stuff that prevented me from actually accepting that identity that I had to, deconstruct and rationalize my way out of as well. So I think like the best moment I can think of is the moment that I decided that I wanted to go through medical transition and HRT. Or only HRT, because I don't want anything more than that, was when I was talking to a friend and I was like, yeah, I'm the type of person that always does stuff for me. I try and like put myself first when it comes to my emotional happiness. And I was describing how I didn't want to do HRT because of all these reasons relating to other people. And she was like, you've got cognitive dissonance there. And I was like, huh, yeah, you're right. And that kind of just like was the logical breakthrough I needed to accept that aspect of myself and act on it.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else on this?
I mean, I've said my piece on this before. We shouldn't make all labels so broad that they mean basically nothing again. We just need
something.
Go ahead.
Yeah. For the person saying that, because we moralize a ton of things, and people get really scared about committing themselves to some position because they think it's going to make them horrible later on. That statement is like on its face obviously true. Words have to mean something. I would agree with ContraPoints' pushback that I understand like the reasons why people want to say like trans women are women, but like on its face, it's kind of like. When we start to deconstruct language too much, I think we get a little bit lost in the sauce sometimes, and then we kind of miss the point of like what we're doing. So like when people can't define people as so like earlier, I think the conversation was like maybe somebody's gay but they like to have sex sometimes with women or whatever, or that's how it was kind of presented. This person is obviously not gay. We need a different word to describe this.
Just call them bi, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Or even like we can The idea that like we can make any label mean anything is a little bit silly and kind of defeats the whole purpose of language in the first place, which is to communicate a coherent idea to somebody.
Or maybe it's a problem with the word. The word is not, encompassing all the things it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So I wonder sometimes when people, because I heard you say that in another situation, referring to ContraPoints thing, and I would just say that I wonder what the real fear is about labels and mislabeling, or whether labels are misapplied. I mean, what is the utility of these words? It may be for legislation or something, but it seems to me like we're saying like people have to say, well, this is my identity, and you're like, are you sure that's your identity? Like we're taking a kind of a police action on people's identity. I was wondering what out of that.
Yeah, depending on what your identity is, there can be all sorts of things. Like I'm sure in terms of trans people or people of different sexualities, kind of like the type of treatment you get when somebody labels you a certain thing, the way that society sees you can radically change. For Black people on the panel, whether you're mixed race or more darker skin, like that can be different treatment in communities. In terms of like, are you a gamer? And somebody's like, yeah, and I was like, oh really? Like, have you played this, or this? And you're like, oh no, I don't even know what's all this. You're not a real gamer, right? We treat people differently all the time based on the types of categories and labels we give them. That's why people are so defensive. So to give
so
the
then
other
why
argument,
can't they choose it themselves then? I'm sorry. I just want to
yeah, because categories are like a socially recognized thing. And that's where the other end of the trans women are women fight comes from. Because if you make a separate category from women for trans women, then trans women would argue, well, if you're treating us something different, oftentimes it means you're treating us something lesser, unequal, or something that doesn't deserve the same like recognition or attention, which is why people will fight over labels. Because the labeling determines sometimes how other people treat you.
Yeah, but the wisdom of the wisdom that we're challenging is the wisdom of the people who are identifying themselves as having an identity. And you're saying, well, there are all these reasons. There are these, these are social constructs, and you say you're gay or you say you're trans. You're going to have a different set of experiences in this culture, in this society. Mm-hmm. So it seems to me that makes an argument for why somebody might say, I'm gender fluid. I'm one thing. I'm this, I'm that, this is how I want to identify, because they're in a sense looking for the experience that identification gives them.
Yeah, I mean, we would call, I believe, I don't know if this is controversial, but we would call those people bad actors, right? Like, so what you've identified is actually, this is kind of like the root of a lot of turfy arguments. TERFs would say that trans women they're not actually trans women. They're just men that want to try to identify as women to come in and steal whatever advantages they can get and then threaten women's spaces. They want access to those spaces and discussions. So that would be like,
please give me all the grants.
Yeah, so that would be like a TERF argument for that, yeah.
Well, I think the easy way to tear apart that
I'm not saying you're a TERF, by the way. I was just like saying.
Yeah. I just got back. I was hoping y'all.
Or for the other guy. Yeah.
No, but I feel like we should say, hey, gender identity is this thing that people can choose, and people can feel how they want about that. But if somebody chooses, like, there shouldn't be anybody to like gatekeep that. Now, there are certain places like sports where, and I don't want to get into the transgender sports thing, but there are certain places where I think that there's physiological differences, and I think it's a more complicated conversation. But there are places where people are just being bigoted, and we don't care about their beliefs, right? Like,
I feel like
I'm gonna do a really personal example. If this is too racist or whatever, then tell me to fuck off, okay? I'm too curious. So let's say that you existed.
That's too racist. No.
Yeah. Let's say that like you went to school. You went to a huge school, okay, high school, and let's say that every single student there was white except for you, obviously, right? And then let's say that you like stood out.
You're talking about college.
Sure. Depending on where you live, yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Right? Yeah. So like, let's say that you felt like, in that experience, even if people didn't blatantly say something, you feel like a little bit of kind of like an other. Like you don't really fit in. People treat you differently. And not only do you have that experience, but people also come at you with this undertone of like, I don't know, why the fuck you're black? Why don't you just be white? Like literally, like why can't you just do that, right? Like, it's hard to imagine that, because when it comes to something outward like race, we would assume like, okay, well, you can't just choose to be white. Like, what the fuck? Like, you have to meet them where they are. Like, you have to accept that there's some kind of identity there that they can't just choose or change. And it's not right to punish or demonize or attack somebody for that. Like, that's insane. And I think with gender identity, it's harder because it's an internal thing, and we think like, oh, well, it's a thought, you could change it. But I would argue that gender identity is like a similar type of experience, where if people are just going to treat you as one thing and then demonize you for it because you're outside the norm, which trans people are outside the norm, and then you get like otherized for it, and people are constantly coming at you like, why don't you just change it? Why don't you just not act this way? That experience can feel, I would argue, similar to like the white and black experience that I'm giving you. That's like the reason why people, I would imagine, would take issue with the idea of saying, well, just choose something different. Why would you choose this?
Yeah, I don't like my answer to this, but I think there are bigoted people, and we should call them bigots. And I don't think that makes things that I feel like are choices immutable, though. Like, I think it simplifies the equation if we say that these things are immutable, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And given that there are people that espouse these views, and like you said, it's phenomenological, I don't know Like, do I tell them that they had an inauthentic experience, or and they were just confused the entire time, or do we say that the environment actually changed your phenomenology over time? Like I understand that conversation get very complicated, and I'm cool with it being complicated, but I think if we simplify saying that things are mutable just to seem morally good, I don't think that's a good way to operate.
Okay, okay, I'm going to change this a little bit. I don't know how to do this for black men because I'm more familiar with this issue on the end of black women. But let's say for 1 second, let's pretend that we're a black woman instead of a black man. What if there was constantly pressure from society around you to constantly change yourself to be like a little bit more white presenting? So like frizzy hair is out the window. You have to straighten your hair every single day. Like it's better if you have like whiter, lighter features.
This happens every day. This is why dreads are being outlawed in companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought that was already
These are real things.
Yeah, that's what I'm referencing, of course. But like we would generally say that like, well, these things are bad. Like just because you're black and you have features of a black person doesn't mean that those features should be like innately off-putting and you need to do things to like change them or.
So I think the root of your argument is we shouldn't argue that people should change their gender identity or gender expression. I agree with that. Your argument is that, hey, if people say that this is my gender identity and this is my expression, we shouldn't argue against that. I agree with you. I don't understand how that's entangled in the conversation that we were having. Because I don't think anybody on the panel is going to disagree with you.
I guess that's kind of the next place that people go from. Usually when they say like this type of thing is a choice, I think that's usually where the pushback comes from that.
I think you're doing the Jordan Peterson thing. Which we can talk about. You're saying that some people can use this to use it in very nefarious arguments, but I don't.
Well, I think this is the root of like a lot of turfy arguments. Is the idea that like that all trans women are just men that are choosing to want to identify as women so that they can infiltrate women's spaces. It's just a choice they're making. Why wouldn't they just choose otherwise? How dumb would be like a turf argument.
I agree that that's a turf argument, and those people are disgusting, but. That doesn't mean that I have to say that things are immutable just because they could use a soundbite and use it for some evil plan or something, right?
Okay.
Like we don't have to tailor our content to whoever the most nefarious person that could use it is.
Sure.
You know,
I don't know how else to tackle the gender identity being.
The thing is though, like, doesn't like most studies behind this kind of show that like it is innate so far, or like most of
because there's like differences in like brain structure and everything. Well, not
so
like
like,
structure,
so like what you're saying isn't like just dangerous in some ways, but it's also kind of like wrong based on the evidence we have, right?
Can you send any evidence that supports that?
Hold on. If we're going off of brain studies, what happens if we like make brain studies or like brain chemistry the way that we decide if somebody's trans or not trans?
Yeah,
Are we gonna?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
Trans?
That's a really bad take.
Yeah,
I think
biological essentialism.
I think there might be a middle ground here, right? Because I don't think it's necessarily strictly immutable, nor do I think it's necessarily strictly a choice, right? So I do think that you can choose to reject the gender binary and identify as non-binary. Like that is a choice you can make potentially, right? And yeah, at that point, you would no longer be cis. You're choosing to reject the existing structures and not identify within that. But I think that gender nonconformity of that type is fundamentally different from when we're talking about the complicated subject of androgen exposure in the womb in relation to identity formation, things like socialization and factors, how that impacts gender development in terms of not just the external constructions that we're exposed to, but our internal constructions of gender and how we relate to those. I think it gets really, really complicated. So like instead of thinking about it as like being strictly immutable or strictly mutable, I like to think of it as kind of like a biopsychosocial thing, right? There's certainly biological influences, there's certainly social influences, there's certainly psychological and psychiatric influences, and the confluence of these things is how things like gender identity, sexuality, etc. form, right? And I think if we're looking at it through that lens, right, in addition to like the lens of performativity, right, this idea that not only do we play into constructs, because I think people understand that part of performativity, but that constructs are in turn projected back onto us, right? They exist outside of us. It's like a stage play, right? I think this is kind of like the analogy that Abigail Thorne was going for in her coming out video. And I don't know if that part of it was necessarily received, right? This idea of playing the role, but also this idea of the role being perceived. So I think, like, yeah, is it fundamentally a choice to choose to perform something a certain way? Like, accepting gender identity is, as I think many people would phrase it, yeah, that, like, you can choose to ignore it. I did for many years, right? But I don't think that, like, that aspect of me was probably predetermined due to androgen exposure in the womb. Like, I've run the math on my index fingers. I had lower androgen exposure in the womb comparable to even cis women. So, like, yeah, that seems to be something that's probably immutable, right? At the same time, right, I don't think that rejecting the gender binary as a concept and choosing to identify as non-binary, someone can make that choice. That is a totally valid choice to make, and I think more people should do that. So I think, like, is that kind of like some, like, would you agree with that, GSU and Destiny? I don't know if that's, like, fair.
I think it's really.
I was
gonna say, I think it's really important. Something you mentioned. Maybe I'm not stressing this enough. Just because something isn't a choice doesn't necessarily mean it's immutable. Like, there might be things that you don't that you don't necessarily choose, but that doesn't mean they don't change over time. Which is something that's also important to point out that you pointed out. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say, riffing off the back of what you just said. The way that you identify in terms of, like, stating, like, oh, I identify as non-binary, I still think is a distinctly separate thing from how you experience yourself, which I would still say, which I would still say that's not really, like, maybe you could change it over a great deal of time with some type of thing, but I don't think it's a thing that on a whim, like, oh, I identify as no, I want to identify as male, right? I don't think you can change that. You can change the statements or declarations you make about it, but I don't think you can change those inner experiences without, like, a great deal of stuff. If it's even possible.
I guess what I'm saying there is, though, that in that particular instance, right, your experiences with the gender binary could lead to a rejection of it rather than being necessarily biologically intrinsic, right? So the formation of identity in that case would be related to social factors, which is why I kind of postulated that biopsychosocial model at the beginning. So I think, like, there are certainly, like, potentially in relation to, like, obviously your own, it's like if you're someone who is very, like, you know, I think there's biological evidence for predisposition towards open-mindedness or closed-mindedness. So if you're someone who's very closed-minded to those kind of ideas, right, then yeah, you're probably less biologically likely to sort of accept that kind of rejection, right? I don't know, maybe. So, like, in that case, like, yeah, it would still be, like, somewhat biological in terms of origin, but not in the same way that I think we've been talking about, if that makes sense.
And I get why Destiny is saying some of this is dangerous. But yeah, I think I agree with everything that
part of that.
Oh, well, maybe somebody else did too. But I agree with everything that Empress said. There's an equation, and I feel like you are a part of it. I can't say to what percentage you are, and I can't say to what percentage you can manifest and change the percentage in the equation. But I do believe that there's an equation in your actions or the way you construe yourself. All of that is a part of that equation. And when I say that it's not immutable, that's what I mean by that. So I agree, Destiny. You're saying that things can change over time. But if those things are changing over time, but they are due to no actions or thoughts or whatever of your own, I would still consider those things immutable, even though it's changing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can say that, but it's wrong. It's just not how the word immutable is used, right?
Yeah.
Or I might be wrong, but, like, I think immutable literally means, like, an unchanging thing, right? Unchanging.
Yeah, but that's
over
what I'm
time.
saying. I don't know. What I'm admitting is I don't know the vocabulary for it, but I'm saying that gender identity is not that thing, whatever that word is that we're looking for.
Oh, like, yeah, or it could change over time. That's possible. Yeah, I think anybody would admit that's possible. Yeah,
no, due to your own volition.
But
that people are so sensitive about the word gender. I mean, who fucking cares? It's not binary. There's a scope. Yay.
Well, the problem is that gender is like your personal experience with gender is going to be what is Empress's name? Sometimes is going to be reflected back on you by society, and if there is a huge incongruence there, that can lead to a great deal of personal anguish. Is like the big problem, right? So you can have all the personal.
Indeed. I'm with you. But however, I think I find it really wonderful that so many people in the last year or 2, 3 years even, have had the bravery to go ahead and come forward as non-binary. Right? It doesn't mean you can't have kids. It doesn't mean you can't reproduce. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means I'm not like this or that. You're telling me I have to be one of those two things. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
And so,
I mean, don't get me wrong. I assure you, we are non-binary. We can reproduce.
There you go. That's it. That's it. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Do anyone else want to speak on this? Now's your chance.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you say like, why does anyone care about gender, and then like, obviously, it always comes back to this. Right now, is the sports debate, and it's the question of I think people generally understand I know people generally understand the concept of sports being segregated between the sexes because of like biological differences between male and female that give males advantages, and then when it's desegregated on the basis of gender, which people say is separate from sex, it feels like the concepts of gender as self-identification are like moving into areas where we see like a harsh biological or physical difference.
To me, we should stop having gender differences in sports at all. Period.
No.
Well, I think
Yes.
the problem.
Boy.
Yes, replace it with body categories.
I know plenty of women that could beat your fucking all asses up.
That's
Well,
great.
hold on, wait.
problem-
I have
the
a
problem-
question, Destiny. Before you go, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Like, is anyone that has a nuanced take on sports and gender, are we automatically turf, right? Because that's what I get in a lot of like, if we're gonna have the conversation, let's have it. But when it devolves down to you're transphobic just because you have a different take from me on transgender in sports, like it's like degrading to the conversation. So I want to have this conversation, but if everybody's just gonna do that, then I'll just buy out. There's no reason to have it.
No, I want to have this conversation. I want to have it and get 50 Gambit. So, like, what is your contention about?
Okay.
Okay. Just
So-
poison the well. Just poison the fucking well right off the bat.
Yeah,
So, Gambit,
so
what would your issue be with like allowing for a woman who has been on hormone therapy for the appropriate amount of time that's been determined by doctors
2 years
already?
about.
Go ahead. Yeah. 2 years.
Yep.
To go ahead and compete as a woman in women's sports. What is your contention here? What data do you have to provide? This is not-
So I think that HRT addresses bone density. It addresses a myriad of things, but it doesn't address things like height. It also doesn't address things like hips. There are certain things that in certain sports where, like basketball, where if I'm predisposed to be taller, that is not going to be affected by HRT. So I think that there are certain sports where you could say HRT does the best possible job to minimize the differences between AFABs
Are
and
you
AMABs.
talking about, dude?
Do you not understand what HRT is? Do you
I
not
don't
understand the
understand you at all.
Okay.
Sure. Hold on. Sorry. Continue your point, please.
Yeah, so I think that there are certain sports where HRT does a great job at minimizing or what's the word I want to use, like destroying any differences, right? But I think there are certain sports where that's not true.
Would you agree that generally speaking, because of the divergence of traits between men and women, right? So there's kind of like the bell curves, that there are obviously going to be women who have similar traits to that which a biological man would have in most cases in terms of it. Because like if we're talking about gender identity, right? I don't want to make this biologically intrinsic, but there is the argument for androgen exposure in the womb having a significant effect on development of those phenotypical traits. There are also women who can develop those phenotypical traits naturally.
There's very
like,
few women
nothing to
who,
do with testosterone.
like there's like probably like 0.001% of women who can like are like I don't know, like
Yeah, this is
as
the
one of
problem
my
with
best friends from college is
capable.
6'4".
No, but Empress, this
So-
is the
It's
problem.
about
Well,
even.
even if
Wait,
she's
Empress,
6'3",
Empress asked me a question.
even
Empress
with
asked me
her
a
being
question, right?
6'3", like another like 6'3" male would probably still be
Kick
like
your
way
ass.
stronger than her with
So,
like the.
okay.
But this is not a
Same
6'3"
training,
male.
right?
This is a
That is
6'3"
so-
person who's been on
No,
HRT.
I'm
I have a
talking.
lady I
Okay.
need to introduce you to.
Okay. All right. So Gambit, finish your point. And then Dr. K. And then Doopy had a question for the panel that might be interesting.
Yeah, so
good.
Empress asked me a question I want to answer. So
Yeah.
there are outliers, right? And there are the statistical difference between being certain heights as AFAB and an AMAB are extremely different. And like, what's the tallest sport? I don't want to go to the furthest extreme, but there are differences in the extremes between, like, I don't know what words aren't triggering, like AFABs and AMAB. There are statistical differences in achieving certain height, or the whole thing about hips and running. I don't even know how we eradicate that, because HRT doesn't seem to address that. And those are just the only two things that I think HRT does nothing to address those issues. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have a society that says, okay, regardless of those differences, we're gonna lump everybody together. But that's the argument that some people make about women being disenfranchised, because they're saying that statistically it's unlikely that they will be the height of their competitors, right?
So, okay, so you responded. Dr. K, and then Gibby had a question.
Okay, is it me or is someone responding to Gambit?
No, just go, Dr. K.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, I mean, the population you're talking about is razor thin, and more so, I keep my ear on this kind of topic, and I haven't heard anything about hips affecting, like HRT and all that sort of thing. So I don't know really where you're getting all that.
I'm not saying that hips are affected by HRT. I'm saying that I can find some stuff and link it to you, but there are people that say because the way female hips are born, because they can bear children, they are disadvantaged in running. That's the claim.
Skeletal structure, maximum O2 capacity in lungs, structure of different like skeletal muscle systems are different between men and women generally, especially post-puberty.
Ability to gain muscle as well over time.
Ability
to like gain muscle like over time.
Yeah,
as well.
unfortunately, that's the biggest thing.
The thing that sucks.
Yeah, but the thing that sucks is that if you had the ability to train as in a male body for like 5 years and then transition, that would be a 5-year training advantage in a male body as well, which kind of sucks. It's hard to erase that with HRT.
So go ahead, Dr. K, finish your point.
Yeah, no. Yeah, like if you've ever been on estrogen, it fucking kicks your ass, and
True.
it destroys a lot of what you've built up. Before
Yeah, that's
I
what
went
I
on
was gonna say.
HRT,
Massive atrophy.
I was in, yeah, exactly. I was in incredibly good shape, and now I get winded, gardening for 15 minutes, right? And even let's say someone builds that back after being on HRT for a long period of time. I would say that your differentials you're looking at again are like this. You're talking about the very cream of the crop of like trans athletes, and that is a population that is going to be so incredibly rare to begin with that I honestly don't see it as a relevant population for being like concerned over, honestly. And like more so, I feel like training and the fact that estrogen kicks your ass more than makes up for any hypothetical advantages that they could have anyways. And it is always interesting too when these conversations get brought up, the hyperfixation on trans women, and like nothing ever gets said about trans men. And
because trans men aren't a problem in sports at all. They won't even be competitive.
Trans men are literally pumping steroids. You understand that, right?
It's
no one
just
talks
something
about
interesting to recognize.
But I think
that's because trans.
That's actually a really good point. That's actually a really good point, because if you say that trans women should compete with cis women, trans men that compete with cis men will probably never be competitive.
Yeah,
exactly.
they won't.
Hold on.
Dr. K, hold on. Wait.
5 seconds. The most absurd thing about this, dude, is the fact that like we already have rules for hormone levels in being able to compete in sports. There are cis women that are told, "Hey, you got to go on fucking estrogen because your test is too fucking high." Like we already have.
Bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it is bullshit.
Wait. The argument that I was having had nothing to do with HRT. I accept all of the science behind HRT.
Okay, then
wait. I'll let you talk, right? All right. I was talking about specifically the things that HRT does not address. But to answer Dr. K's point, I actually brought this up on the drunken debates. I talked about how when we talk about transgender sports, we never talk about trans men. We never talk about gender fluid people. There's a lot of things that we don't address. So I'm happy to engage on those topics, because a lot of our arguments devolve to, are trans women women? And I think that's a dumb argument. Like, no one should be debating that, right?
You're telling me, bud.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So I want to have the more interesting conversations over, like, HRT doesn't address height. Are we just going to say that that's okay? It doesn't address the skeletal thing.
Yeah,
Are we just going to say that's okay?
Hold on.
Yeah. Had their child look at you and say, "Can you get me a binder so people don't think I'm a girl?"
All right.
By the way, going on estrogen does actually put you at increased risk for like bone density problems.
So, yeah.
I wanted to try.
That's where my baby is. That's where my baby is. That's all I was trying to say. Sorry. It's
I want to try Doobie. I want to try Doobie. Sorry. Because he had a question. So go ahead, Doobie.
Hi, Doobie.
So to be clear, I don't really have a firm stance on either side of this or any side of what I'm about to bring up. I'm genuinely just curious as to what you guys think about it. No, fuck you. So I've been watching a bunch of like YouTube videos by a non-binary trans person called Alexander. They have videos about like the transition process, taking HRT, what that's like, getting off HRT for a while, all this kind of stuff, right? So been watching a bunch of their videos, and I joined their Discord server to try to get them onto politics for an AMA, about their experiences. And I found that they had people called systems and alters in their server. And it seems these people are people who have like DID, and they say that they have like multiple people sharing the same headspace and stuff.
They don't necessarily have DID.
Yeah, some of them do. The ones that I've like seen videos
Some do.
about. Yeah, I've done like 5 hours of like digging and watching YouTube videos about shit. But most of the ones that I saw did. I guess there's some that don't. That's fine. But like most
probably
of the
majority from what I've seen, but that's a different story.
Right. So most of the alters, what they're called, that I've seen are like it's like the person is like a woman, and she'll have like another woman with a different name in her head. That comes out sometimes as a different personality, different accent. We'll have like a male figure that comes out sometimes with a different personality, different accent. But some of them are like, timeless like deities and shit. And I'm just like, I'm generally like, I side with like the self-ID argument. If you say, hey, I'm this, that's fine, right? And if I were to meet one of these people, and they were to say, I'm this, I would probably not like. I don't want to be an asshole, right? So I'll just go along.
So
with
what's your point, dude?
Well, my point is like, how far does the self-ID argument go? Like, is it like reasonable to question these people when they're saying that they're, 5,000-year-old deities, or should we just accept that? Like, is it reasonable to like question them? Like, I'm just trying to understand like
you got to call
like,
some things bullshit.
Yeah.
Obviously,
saying,
some things have got to be wrong, right? Like,
that's just like
where does self-identification stop?
It's sort of like to me, when I sort of dabbled in trying to understand these kinds of people's experiences, is that like it's reasonable to think that people who are identifying as various as various genders and experiencing various gender expressions, that's that would be a actual reasonable thing that a human being can experience. But someone saying I'm a 5,000-year-old deity, like I don't understand how that's at any point like a part of the conversation of like accepting that person's identity is true.
Yeah, I think this is
gender identity is an obvious experience we all experience is gender identity. So we can be like, yeah, people can have various different gender identities. I may not understand your experience, but I know that gender identity is a thing. But to go so far as the sort of like, well, then how can we not accept this person identifying as a deity? That doesn't make any sense to me because, like, I don't know, not to be like deities don't exist, but just like I don't.
Well, they don't.
I don't think. Yeah. But right, but like it's just like a little bit. There's different. There's a little bit of a difference there.
Go ahead, Dr. K. You want to respond to that?
Yeah. One, don't compare DID people to transgender people. Just putting that out there. On top of that, if they aren't hurting anybody and they aren't hurting themselves or anything, like, why do we care? Like, just go along with it. Just be like,
right. Yeah. Like I said, if someone were to tell me that that they're like a system, I wouldn't like. I would go along with whatever pronoun. I don't give a fuck, right? And I'm not saying that these are like the scourge and they're going to come and like take down society or anything like this. I'm just curious as to like how far you guys think this self-ID argument can go, or that stance, because
self-IDing for trans people or for DID people?
For just like identity. like identity, not,
Yeah,
not
like-
just trans
like-
people.
like-
I think
Real-
those aren't two comparable experiences.
Real
though.
quick.
We're not asking if they're comparable.
Yeah,
He's
yeah, yeah.
asking, do you think it should be allowed, and is it coherent to you?
Okay.
He's
Also,
not asking to compare them.
Self-IDing is fine. Like, who cares?
I think that when we look for these things, I think that, at least when I think of these things, there's two big things that I think about. The first is like I will appeal to some biological essentialism. What is like the scientific evidence for it? And then the second thing is how like reasonably and safely can it be integrated into society? So when we look at things like identifying as deities, this seems to be an exceedingly rare thing. That it doesn't seem there's like a good foundation to believe that this is like a common human experience. Whereas as opposed to trans people seem to have existed throughout all of history. So this does seem to be like it's like a better historical foundation for it. And then secondly, in terms of like what is like the science behind it, like I think that we have ways scientifically, obviously like neuroscience is still very young, but we have ways to understand this from a scientific level. It's like, oh, this is a real experience. Like it seems like this is something that people are actually experiencing. It's not just like the result of like a schizophrenic delusion or something, right? So and then that's the scientific half. The other half is like how reasonably can you integrate a particular type of thing into society? You know, if somebody believed that they were a deity, they wanted to control the world and blow everything up, and they wanted to be the ruler, this isn't somebody that can be reasonably integrated into society. They're just not going to be compatible. In terms of somebody that's like a trans woman or a trans man, these are people that can be integrated into society. We've got a variety of therapies, both physical and mental, and then we can be accommodated to these people, and it doesn't cause harm to any other group of people as well to do that.
all right. So two things real quick. Number one, I like throughout hello. Oh, okay.
Casino, please.
Yeah, throughout our history, we have had some people try to or say that they are deities or like I mean, for one, we had Jesus, right? So we do have some, although they're very rare. And also my second point. What was my second point? Fuck, I forgot. Give me a second. I forgot.
Bringing up like biological stuff, scientific evidence, integration into society.
Wait, no. I remember now. Some person brought up like as long as someone isn't hurting somebody else or themselves, I would argue even if someone is hurting themselves, if they're not hurting somebody else, it doesn't really matter. Like, cause like the reason why I bring that up is cause you can make an argument for like so many other things with like smoking or like becoming fat. Where like, oh, you're hurting yourself, you can't.
Yeah,
do this
but these
thing,
aren't
right?
those
like
things.
I don't. Well, I'm just saying.
We're comparing them.
I'm just trying to push back on like if someone's hurting themselves but like not somebody else, that like you should try to stop them. I don't think
if someone is drinking themselves to death, yes, you should in fact intervene, right? Like,
yeah. But if someone also has a belief about themselves that's not true and impossible,
my stance on
and they
suicide
can't
is
integrate
different than most.
and relate to other people, that's harmful in a sense too.
Perfectly fine.
If someone thinks they're a deity and they go around telling everyone that they're a god, and then their life is not working out because they keep getting fired, that's not good for them, right? And I mean, you should not. No one has an expectation on someone else that like they're going to have to uphold that belief. Like, oh, you didn't bow when they walked in. Don't you know that they're a god? Like, you wouldn't do that, right? So
no,
to what extent is it our responsibility to appeal to other people's beliefs?
No, what
we do that, by the way. We actually do deify like certain individuals and treat them as though they're above others. Like,
well, no one's
we saw these things.
All I'm
monarchs.
saying is
who claimed to be who claimed to be installed through divine right.
Right, but we don't like that anymore.
You have these things called Twitch streamers.
Still do
You have these things called Twitch streamers, and I have not been receiving the proper level of respect here.
Okay.
Me either.
Okay, so
may I add?
hold on.
Christina, finish your point, and then we'll go to Dr. K.
All I'm saying is that for behaviors that we like that don't hurt anybody else but do hurt yourself, I would argue that you shouldn't step in because that person has that right to do what they want with their own body. But yeah.
Okay.
So where does
Dr. K.
Yeah, Gambit's me. So
I want to ask you something, but no, go ahead and I'll ask you.
All right. So just at least when it comes to transgender people, I would avoid this sort of biological essentialism for deciding who isn't trans, because, you know, that opens the door to legislators being able to say, well, this is how we define who is trans. If you do not fit into X bubble, then you're not trans, and you know, are thus, you know, not able to gain, you know, whatever services or such are available to people who fall into this bubble. So the biological essentialism thing, while I understand maybe the impulse to describe a biological means to it, I would be cautious to have that be your main means of defining, such things.
So, oh no, you weren't done. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, and again, like, if it's some random stranger, don't intervene. But like, if this is someone you know and they're doing self-destructive behaviors, then yeah, it's kind of your familial or I would say your moral imperative to intervene. But all right, Gambit, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so this is one thing that me and Joe Lewis have struggled to combat. Like, you have Redneck that says that, hey, I feel like I'm black, right? So where does the self-identity thing stop, right? Like, it's hard for us to argue against him because he's like, yo, I self-identify as black and I should be able to get black stuff, right? So if Redneck wants to go get a loan that's created for black people, let's say, how do we combat? Because like you almost have to be a biological essentialist to say, no, Redneck, you're white, dude. Like, you're not black. But how do we...
Well, race has no biological basis, so there's note that one down.
Which makes it even more like fuzzy, right? So how do we actually combat? Because a lot of people attack the transgender community with stuff like transracial and.
I mean, it's the only way to get it.
That's a huge straw man.
Well, I think you have to, because to say race has no biological basis isn't true. There is some obviously biological basis. I think there needs to be some sort of biological component to things. I think we accept it in most cases. Like, in order to apply for something, you might need to be a certain age, or you might need to be like a male or female or
no.
Hispanic.
For being trans, you don't need. There is no biological like indicator that you have to display in order to be valid.
I mean, ideally,
I push back against that strongly.
Okay. I think that, like, in a world with finite resources, I think it would be really troubling if trans people that like had an authentic trans experience maybe couldn't gain access to those resources because they weren't available because other people that could have been treated through other means.
Well, I mean, if that's your concern, I would say tackle things like universal healthcare first, because, for example, a lot of trans women, myself included, can't afford estrogen right now and literally are priced out of it. Estrogen, by the way, is something that is very easy to produce, so it's not exactly as though it's going to be a resource that trans people are going to be exactly scarce on if we invested in the infrastructure to produce it.
So the Empress,
do we still get it from horse pee?
Okay, hold on. So from Empress to Dr. K, I'm curious. Like, okay, so there's universal healthcare, but let's say there was grants, right? Grants handed out to trans individuals, to help them out, right? Doesn't matter, and I'm not trying to take a stance here. I'm just like trying to explore this issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
But do you think, in that point, with there's finite resources that Stephen pointed out, when there's finite resources, that it would be just as fair for someone to be able to claim that they're trans, but like have not done any of the not done any sort of transition, not have
still in the closet.
Possibly in the closet. Yes, still, not have any of the experiences that you two have had as trans individuals, right? Does that person,
what do you mean?
Because
yes, they can still access the resources,
and they still have had a trans experience.
Yeah, hold on, wait, real quick, wait, because PrimeCayes is struggling. Prime, I don't think you mean. Prime doesn't mean that they need to be trying to transition to be trans. I think, Prime, you just mean like they're having the internal experience of being trans versus not having the internal experience of being trans, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they have an internal experience of being trans.
Yeah, we can't
right?
prove that
in
one way
terms
or
of the
another.
development of identity. But in terms of like having the experience of being outwardly trans, no. I mean, like there's already an organization, Trans Lifeline, right? That actually does micro grants for trans people.
None of us
and they don't do. Well, that's what I'm saying. They seem to be fairly successful without using this metric.
You don't need to means test transness.
What PrimeCayes was getting at, his question is let's say that there was one person you could divinely, in their brain that they're not trans, that they have some other issue, but they're not trans. And another person you divinely knew that they were having a trans experience. If you had to divvy up resources between these two people to the detriment of the trans person, would that be an acceptable outcome? Is I think what Cayes was.
We can never prove that, though. That's an impossible scenario.
Yeah.
Like this is just silly to entertain because it's not a situation that'll ever occur.
I'm trying very hard because you're so fucking passive. So you say that it's silly to entertain, but then the earlier solution that you proposed was just universal healthcare where everything is free. That's about as unrealistic as being able to just determine right now, like what a person's particular brain structure is. Even in countries
universal healthcare where everything is free, impossible. Never,
Even in
no
countries-
examples
so,
of it
So
exist.
if you want to do reading on trans medical issues in other countries, sometimes I encourage you to do so. But if you think that every country that has a single payer or multi-payer system in Europe provides adequate resources to trans people without issue, then I implore you to do more reading on it. Because
No,
it's
I would
absolutely-
implore them to do more, but it's not saying
Okay,
that
I'm just
that's an
saying that like
impossible
that
thing.
you're avoiding the hypothetical by just saying, oh well, let's imagine post-scarcity.
Because it's a
That's what
silly
you're-
hypothetical to entertain.
Okay, well,
Okay,
it might be
I
silly
don't-
for you, but the lack of access to resources
Because-
for trans people is a very real experience that a lot of trans people, even in countries with universal healthcare, currently suffer.
But not because the resources are scarce, because the
Mhm.
resources are extremely prevalent and easily accessible to cis people who present with different disorders.
Exactly.
Like particularly testosterone, estrogen, and spironolactone, the three main medications used in HRT for trans men and trans women, are literally prescribed to cis people all the time for a variety of different things. Blood pressure, though, gynecomastia is a side effect of spironolactone. Like a variety of different issues with your endocrine system that are faced by women, and low T in men, right? But
My
for a
guess
trans
is-
person to get the exact same treatment, they have to go through all these loopholes. And the problem is not that the resources aren't there. The problem is all these hoops that we have to jump through to
The
get access to the
medicalization
resources.
of it
Which is why
oftentimes.
we have a bit of a problem when someone comes in and says, well, where do you draw the line? Well, it seems everywhere we draw the line, it's to the detriment of trans people.
Exactly.
So that's my
In fact,
problem
to
here.
even get estrogen in the U.S. right now, at least from where I'm at, is you literally have to come in with a prescription from a therapist saying, yes, in fact, I can doubly confirm that is trans. And it's like, well, you
so
know,
let me take us out of the realm of the trans experience. I can't speak to that. But like talk about the black experience, right? There are people with black parents, right, or of black African ancestry, yes, ancestry, who look very much white. So in that case, like they may have like grown up with like a black father or something, they still look very much like they're white passing. Should they have access to funds like grants or something, right?
Boy,
They shouldn't,
here
they
we
do.
go.
Yeah, like how do we
They
determine,
shouldn't, they do.
how do we determine though who can claim that they're black? Like,
So,
what-
but here's
The census
why-
has a very explicit definition, and this is usually what's used by universities for grants. It's simply ancestry and nothing else.
Okay, sure. But like, why do we provide these grants in the first place?
The reason why you're correct, Case. There needs to be more than just an ancestry thing, ideally, because the reason why you provide these grants isn't because of somebody's blood; it's because of the experience that they're likely to have in society, or the experience that their ancestors likely were to have in society. If you're born and you have an African American experience in the United States, your experience is going to be way different than if I had a great grandfather that was black. Right, so
Yeah.
it probably needs to go a little bit more experiential. Obviously, we have to approximate.
But we don't do this currently, and we don't do this for any racial grants. We don't
right.
test experience.
Although that
we
would-
simply go by someone's ancestry and identity. And there are many instances. Well, hang on, right? So like this would be like saying, so what if you had a person who has like darker skin, right? A darker skinned black person who grew up in a rich white suburb, right? Went to private school their whole life. They're going to have a fundamentally different racial experience from a white passing person, a white passing Afro Latina, right? Who grows up in the hood, right? Does that mean either of them had less of a black experience? No, they both had black experiences, just fundamentally different black experiences. This idea that we're going to divvy up this identity of blackness based on something as arbitrary as skin tone, when we know that intergenerational racism and intergenerational trauma are massive problems. We know that anti-blackness affects people who are white passing. We know that the alienation of identity is extremely traumatic to an individual's sense of self, right? Which is something that does happen to many individuals who are white passing. Like, absolutely not. No, there's a reason we don't draw these lines. Because we recognize these things as being salient to the experience of the individual.
That's a really good answer. I think so.
Sorry, I might have gone a little bit harsh there.
No.
It's my own experience, so that's why.
Yeah.
It's like that conversation that we had about Brazil, right? Where the politicians are saying, "Hey, I'm black," even though they've identified as white their entire lives to get additional, like, political funding.
So
like,
what about,
like there's not outside of biological essentialism. I don't know how you argue against those points.
So someone came on this stream a while ago, talked about a friend. If I'm remembering this correctly, this is a while. But talked about a friend who was like, I think like Filipino or something, like some sort of Filipino mix. But they looked black, right? And everyone treated them as black. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Yeah, and everyone treated them as black, like they had experience growing up here in the States, right? Even in terms of like the justice system. Now, they hadn't dealt with, like, for instance, that intergenerational poverty. At least I think they were more immigrants, so there's that, right? Like, but the same intergenerational poverty that we had dealt with, but they still had the Black experience, like from how society directly treated them. Should they? Are they Black?
Oh boy. No.
So now we start getting into the what do we mean by Black?
Yeah.
Are we referring to, so like this starts to get into, are we talking about specifically Black as in descended from Africa? Are we talking about Black as in descendants of slaves? Are we talking about Black as
When we
in
talk about Black,
are we talking about Black as in perceived, right? In terms of,
talk
because there
about-
is like
or their
anti-Blackness
experience.
perceived
when
by
we
people
talk
who
about
don't
race,
have that. Yeah.
just to be really clear, when we talk about race, we're usually talking about the perceived race because that's typically what determines your treatment in society. So nobody cares if you're Black, if you're like 1/29th Black or whatever, because you've got a great right. If your experience in society isn't as such, then that's usually what we use race to approximate.
Yeah, if you
Are you
experience...
wait? Hang on. So I don't like this reducing race to phenotypic features. Are you like how you're
That's
perceived
all
in
it is,
society is absolutely well.
I mean,
okay, so how you're perceived in society could be incongruent with your actual racial identity, right? Your familial identity, that what you grew up with, and this in turn, right, as I mentioned earlier, creates issues of alienation, right? So I vehemently disagree with this idea of attaching.
I don't
phenotypical
understand.
features.
What do you mean it could be incongruent with your identity? What do you mean by that?
Right. So you can be multiracial and be white passing. Right, so you
Yeah,
can
but
have a Black parent and a
that would
white
be
parent and look white and be white, right, and look white in society. But your racial experience, because of your upbringing, because of the environment you grew up in, is fundamentally different from that of a actual white person, right? These are not the same. These people are going to have fundamentally different racial experiences, despite the fact that they might look the same.
If you looked completely white and you walked into a room full of Black people and you started dropping the N-word, what do you think that explanation would work in that room full of people? If you say, well, hold on, I grew up with Black parents, I had the Black experience, I can do this.
You know, you're talking to a white passing Afro-Latina, right, nigga? Like,
Does that
I don't
matter?
know how much blunt.
Wait,
blunt
that
to be
has
with
nothing
you.
to do with that
don't-
hypothetical.
No, because that hypothetical is quite literally my own lived experience.
What I'm saying.
So, like, I mean, like, generally speaking, people react one of two ways. They'll either react angrily because they don't understand how that experience relates to their actual lived experience, or they'll react positively because they do have an understanding of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, and that then boils down to their perceptions of the individual, right? That's like, again, like I've literally lived through this, so I can tell you how it would go down.
You're not the only one.
On the opposite
I know
side,
I'm not the
I've
only
lived
one,
through
but
this. I've lived through this on the opposite side where, like, there's this person who you think is white comes in and they're saying nigga, and you're like, well, what, like, you about to get messed up, and then they're like, no, I actually have a Black parent. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're Black. Like, that happens. Like, that's not a rare. Well, it is rare, but it does happen.
Sure, but the identity is like a social thing, right? That's the whole point that I'm saying.
But we would immediately identify them as Black.
Sure,
the Black
possibly
community.
through conversation, but the identity initially is phenotypical. It's a social thing.
You didn't
know that person.
I mean, I think that might
would have
be
no
from the
idea.
white perspective, but like, I don't know. I don't know if that's how. it goes all the way.
No, that stop. Don't even start on that fucking train. That is just wrong. Every single person who sees race goes off of what they see first. Don't even try to make that argument.
That's
Like,
incomplete, though.
It's true. It's incomplete.
That's what
I think Empress did a good job of explaining that the Black experience is a lot more than your phenotypical presentation. But it's Stephen's not wrong saying that, like, how society will initially treat you, right, is to your phenotypes, right? That will determine the initial reaction. These things are both true, right?
I agree.
My push is that sometimes even past the phenotypical experience, or even past whatever you explain, you might still get a phenotypical treatment. So I can't speak to, because I don't know if you're going to get upset or whatever, but I can't speak to your experiences. But from my mixed race Black friends, they say that their experiences in some Black communities are incredibly negative because they're lighter skinned. It doesn't matter if they had two Black parents or whatever. That the fact that they appear mixed race in and of itself makes it so they get shitty treatment from white people and shitty treatment from Black people.
Colorism is a really big
this is
problem.
true.
Light skin hatred, baby.
Well, that's not really. I guess that would be a type of colorism. I usually think of colorism as being the other way around. So maybe that's just me. But I would think of that as more so.
The
like,
Black community has a lot of racism
a lot of
inside of it.
problem.
My only
for sure.
question about it was just like with the initial question being like what are the limits of self-identification, right? And moving from someone who thinks they're a god then trans, and then black. And we were operating with basically a definition of black the whole time in discussing race. And when we reach a point where it breaks down and we can't like validate self-identification anymore on that basis, then we have to question like what black means. But even that answer is going to rest on some underlying definition, right? Like then it'll be like it's social perception. They'll be like, well, okay, what is a society, right? So it's like, is there any basis that you can actually judge someone's self-identification on?
Well, I would say that yes, because if you're talking about self-identifying as like a deity, we can't really match an actual deity's like brain scan, because we do know that trans people, the gender they identify with, is very similar to the brain scans of cis people whose their same gender. But we can't measure this with things like deities or attack helicopters. It just doesn't work.
So Myth, would you say a person that had a different brain structure, whatever you're saying, could be discriminated against as trans? Because
I don't think this is the same thing as race. I think this is something very different, and it's.
I think like Dr. K said, it's a dangerous argument to use what
overly biologically essentialized. Sure, but that is for the case that there's something biologically to essentialize against, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have, like, what does that even mean to be a deity, right? Like, no, like what, like, I mean, it's compared to like, what does it mean to be a woman? Like, we can have, we can work on some sort of.
I'll explain because I'm a deity.
Blessed are we to be in your presence, Gambit.
But yeah, so like, what does it mean to do this question? Yeah, what does it actually mean to be a deity? So like, we can, and it'll be a bad definition. We can come up with a definition of a woman, of a man, right? We can do that. But of a god, I mean, there's none of those to compare to, right?
I mean, we have Jesus, technically.
I mean, but even so, like, even what the idea of what a deity is different, like in culture to culture, right? So like you can have like other cultures that have gods and have like different
Buddha
definitions and stuff and properties than like the Christian God, right? So like how would you measure it one way or the other? So how could you acknowledge their identity? Like,
I think this is kind of why people call it biological essentialism. Like, I would even go deeper and say that this is more of a discussion on like language, or your maybe even we have to get it like epistemic, like your theories of truth. Like when you say I am and then you declare something, that something should be a reference for something. I guess we just have to argue over what it is we're referencing. When we say like I am trans, what is the reference there? I guess is what we're asking for. Because when you do have an identity, your behavior will like match that, and there's there is like a biological component to it. I would say. Well, not even for even fuck the identity. We're just now we're even more fundamental. We're just talking language. Like so, for instance, like why is it that somebody could never identify as an attack helicopter? Because we know all the pieces and parts. There's a category that exists for attack. It just doesn't make any sense. It's nonsense. It doesn't make sense to say that, right? So typically, if we say I am X, whatever X is, that has to be a reference for some universal category that we all understand what that particular thing is, and then what it references. So I think it's a little unfair to reduce that to just say, well, it's biological essentialism, because usually when we say we are something, we're referring to something there. So the question is what is the reference? I wasn't accusing you of doing that. I was just saying that I think that there is like a valid. I think it's valid to look at. To be concerned about it, yeah, for sure. Because it could be gatekeeping, yeah, for sure. It could be, yeah. It could be misused, but I don't think that's a good argument just to throw out all understanding of truth or meaning or public language or whatever, right? Like the brain scan, like similarities. I mean, like that could be one way to point towards it. I don't know if that is sufficient, but because I don't know if that is well enough understood. But it's a really complex issue. So
that's the thing is,
I apologize if I'm saying anything like that's not like super specific.
You're good.
Because I want to make sure that I'm treading lightly and I don't say anything dumb.
That's don't worry. I say dumb shit all the time. No one stops me yet.
That's
don't we all?
Yeah.
That's fair enough.
Did you have your hand up? I'm sorry, Empress. I'm not sure if you did.
No, I'm just playing with my hair. Ignore me.
Okay, great. Dr. Caitlin.
Yeah,
Which is fabulous, by the way.
Again, the reason I push so hard back against this sort of idea that we throw out all truth and all like social norms when we don't sort of force a burden of proof is that womanhood at the end of the day is an incredibly blurry line, right? It's one where you can't really define where it starts or where it ends, and I think to try and demarcate that, you're always going to leave someone on the other side of the fence, and I don't think that that's a good way to go about these things when ultimately we're talking about socially constructed phenomenon, not like things that have a like numerous concrete factors.
Yeah, I mean, think people would say that there's a like, where's the line between that and gender abolition, right? That's like the problem that I had with some of that argument from Demon Mama. Like, where is the?
I mean, gender is a construct, right? Like,
yeah, but
I mean, I'm not necessarily against gender abolition.
So something we have to be really careful.
Hold on, let's not get rid
some
of.
People some people seem to mix
male.
up or say this thing like something is a construct, therefore it's arbitrary, or it doesn't mean anything. Just because something is constructed doesn't mean there might not be a great deal of descriptive power beneath that. So, for instance, like if we say male or female, like generally to a lot of people that carries like a certain connotation, and it surmises or it summarizes and categorizes like a ton of underlying descriptive facts that are generally true. Just because a particular thing is a category or a universal category, and it's socially constructed, and it could be another way, doesn't mean it doesn't offer some sort of descriptive underlying power to it.
Oh, of course. The problem, the thing you have to remember is, though, if it is a social construct, that means that it does not rest on immovable foundations, right? And that's the difference, is that the concept, the definitions, can change by region and over time. One thing that I always say that blows people's mind is that, like, medieval Naples, in fact, of all places, had a third gender. Like these concepts are completely unrigid and amorphous, and while there is a cement sort of feeling in your heart that a thing is one way or the other, over time and over generations and in different places, that is not the case, right?
Okay.
It can't be completely amorphous and not.
It's not
tied
completely.
To anything.
It's just not on completely 100% solid foundations
for
either,
anything to be,
and that it can be changed over time.
Everything in the category of gender that fits in the category of gender can only fit in there if it all shares at least one quality, right? Because there's things that don't fit in the category of gender, and it's everything that is gender must have something in common to be gender, no matter how various and diverse.
Not necessarily.
Yes, but the only reason it falls into that category is because we all collectively agree on it falling into that category. That's what we mean when we say something is socially constructed, that there's a social consensus underlying its creation.
So this is going to be really weird, but before we move on, I think someone just made a categorical error. Just because something belongs to a category doesn't mean that everything in that category must share one attribute in common. What it would actually mean is there could be a set of attributes under which that category operates, and meaning any one or any combination thereof of those attributes puts it into the category. It doesn't necessarily have to be a shared attribute among all members of that category. Sorry, just wanted to clarify the logic there.
Wait, I'm curious.
I'm not sure about that.
Wait, yeah, because I didn't actually take a formal prop logic course. Is there an example of two things? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just curious. Is there an example of two things that could belong in the same categories that have no shared characteristics?
Yeah.
Two things that belong in the same category that have no shared characteristics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, so here's the problem with using category theory. It's a system that has problems anyway because it will have contradictions. So I can't think of one off the top of my head, but yes, I know that category does exist.
Okay, but I don't think so because that sounds illogical. That's why I was
which is the problem with using set theory.
So you're saying that like if there was that there are four attributes that define this category, right? there could be like one object that could have
Oh.
two of those attributes, and then another object that has another two of those attributes. They don't share those attributes, but they're still part of the same category.
Sorry, I thought of a simple. I thought of a simple example. And I don't mean to be morbid with this, but this is an example that exists in international law: genocide. In order to be considered genocide, you only need to meet one of the legal criterion for genocide, as well as the intent category, right?
But
so
that's
like,
the point.
But like, so hang on. So like, you have like a series of I think 5 or 6 categories, but you only need to meet one of them, right? So you can have various things within that don't necessally like you wouldn't have a unified characteristic sharing among all the attributes necessarily.
Wait,
right?
they shared
For that
the
second
intent though,
qualification.
right? Don't they share?
Right, I'm just saying, like, if we were to look strictly at the second qualifier, right? So the intent is like the first qualifier. If we look strictly at the second qualifier, like it would be any one of those traits rather than.
So they all still share the intent.
In that particular case, yeah.
Well,
I'm just saying, like the second. So
that
there's 2
example doesn't
parts.
count
There's
then,
the.
right?
Hang on. So. Do you understand?
No,
do you understand? Hang on, wait. Sorry, you very clearly don't understand how we understand genocide under international law. It's my fault for explaining it wrong. So there's 2 parts of the definition for genocide. There's genocide, the intent, and there's genocide, the action. You need both for the crime, but genocide, the action, right, is specifically defined.
Empress
Does that make
right
sense?
here. Empress is right
Genocide,
here.
the action.
They must
Okay,
both
so
have
which one
intent and
are you
some
talking
other
about then?
characteristic.
Choose one.
No, listen.
Yeah. So any one of those 6 characteristics, I believe.
No.
5 or
Which
6.
one were you referring to?
Genocide, the action.
Genocide,
like the intentionality is necessary for the crime, but like we're talking about the action of genocide, right? Like that any one of those 6 actions or any combination thereof would fall into the category of genocide.
So, Wittgenstein came up with this topic under familial resemblances. Actually, the silly serious would be somebody who would really be able to talk to us about this. Anyway, in that, if you think about the pattern or the letters ABC, and then BCD, and then
EFT,
CDE.
Or how about CBD?
Yeah. You have the first and the fourth variation of that pattern are going to be completely different, but they're still categorically the same because they share familial resemblance. And so that would be the answer, I think, or an example of an instance where you could have something being in the same category that doesn't necessarily share an attribute.
We got pretty hardcore lost in this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but I think
what was our
logic good
original
enough.
conversation?
So
I
at the
forgot.
end of the day,
oh yeah,
can
trans
I
people in
tell-
sports, right? I think.
I think just to summarize that, because I disagree with that initially, but now after having explained to me, I understand and I agree. So for instance, we could say the concept of like a game. We could have a video game or we could have a board game. These 2 things have virtually nothing in common, at least physically or whatever. And the only thing we could truly say is, well, the only thing they share is the category of being in a game. Right, but like binary, like maybe this is the best example because you can say they both have rules or whatever. But like, but like so if you have like a set and that set has like 5 characteristics and one thing has 3 and another thing has 2, and they could share 0 characteristics with each other. The only thing they have in common is the category itself, and we wouldn't say that's a commonality because that's just the name of the category. Yeah, I understand that now. That's what.
And then just to close out the other bit that I said, which was one, the category error, but the other is using set theory in general is high-key problematic when you're trying to define things because the system itself has contradictions and paradoxes. So if you're curious about this and you're in chat, you want to go read the Bertrand Russell Critique of Frege. Basically boils down to when you try to create a set of all sets not contained within this set, you wind up with a paradox where that set is simultaneously contained within a set and not contained within a set. So like, yeah, using as a definitions system doesn't work, which is why we don't define numbers that way. We tried, it didn't work. So that's why I was like, I don't really accept that the categorical system needs to be met. Sometimes it's just fine that a definition is irreducible or a concept is irreducible. Like we do this with numbers.
Why do we need to do this with other things though?
I'm not saying that we necessarily need to. I'm saying it's just not necessarily a problem.
I think it would probably logically follow that if it doesn't work with numbers, which is probably the closest we have to just like a pure expression of logic, then we probably shouldn't apply it to more abstract things as well. Would be my guess on that.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to relate to the original question that Doobie brought up to us, right? Which is how we ended up here in the first place. But like, so Dr. K, I don't think you were particularly referring to me when you made that comment. But talking about like how you can, how it's difficult to define gender, define what it is to be a woman, right? And you properly said that, like, you know, if we try to,
I've got to go to sleep. I love you guys. Be careful.
I have a good one too.
Have a wonderful night. Be well.
Yep.
If you try to, you'd still like leave people out, right? And actually, before we even get there, let me just do this before people start leaving the stream, because I've know what's going to happen like in 2 seconds. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. You came here for Destiny, not for me. I get that. That's fine. But now that you're here, you'll see that we have these open walk-on panels. We have them 6 days a week. 6 days a week we're streaming here. We also have closed panels that are a lot of fun. We had one earlier tonight, all black everything panel. A lot of chill people, like our good friend Gambit, who's over there, right? It was a blast, and we do other things like the Primetime Royale. We have that on Saturdays. And if you've missed the Austin show or the Primetime, so the Raj Royale, we have that more of a political format. So if that interests you, any of that interests you, if these open panels interest you, when members of my audience, these are all members of my audience, can just walk in and talk and have a good time, and big streamers might show up, right? If any of that interests you, do me a favor, hit that follow button, hit the notification bell right now to make sure you know when I'm going live. You don't want to miss out. We have these things all the time. If you don't know me yet, you will know me soon. I'm on the scene. I'm always here. So if you want a channel where you can always find entertainment, that's this one. You'll never find another channel.
Do you ever sleep?
No, I don't do that either. So
yeah, I didn't think so.
My man's built to suffer.
Exactly.
Mine's built differently.
So this is the only channel that does this. You literally won't find this anywhere else on the internet. So do yourself a favor, hit the follow button, hit the notification bell right now to be a part of this. I don't want you to miss another moment of this stuff. All right. And
this Prime sub.
Actually, Prime, this is a promise I make anytime you got a lot of people in chat, is that if you get like a whole bunch of subs right now, I'll wear a funny hat.
Okay.
Just for you, chat. Love you.
I will also wear a funny hat if you get a
what
sub.
you got,
I
Prime?
have my rabbit fur Ushanka. It's a good hat.
No, I'm not telling what the funny hat will be, but it's pretty funny.
If y'all give,
Hold on, will you speak
got,
with a
Prime?
funky Russian accent when you put the Ushanka on too?
Yes. Now, what do you got, Prime?
Okay. So you were saying how, like, if we try to find exactly what womanhood is, then you'll definitely be leaving people out. Same with manhood. Agreed, right? But because Doobie brought in the thing about people believing their deities, right? Like,
yeah, I thought that point was stupid, so I didn't engage with it.
So hold on.
I mean, can you prove him wrong, though?
Thank you, 6 Foot Ant, for being so kind as to gift a hat to one gift sub. That's really
damn! I guess I gotta get my hat.
Yeah, that's all awfully kind of you.
All right, well, if you're doing it.
But my point is that, like, with the deity thing, right? Part of the reason why I think you can't acknowledge their identity, or this is extremely difficult to do so, right, is that we can't actually define what deity is because those things don't exist.
Well,
I mean, depending on who you ask.
Because it's not just like deities, right? Like, I know something that I mentioned earlier was it's like multiple people, basically. So they'll have like a woman named Sasha, and then they have a man named Kevin or something. And when these altars come out, they now identify as Kevin, and they're Kevin.
Okay.
Right. So is that, should we treat that as valid? Like, so some of them have like 8-10 people. Like, is that all totally valid?
It's not like
so long as I get 8-10 social
them,
security numbers,
and we should treat them as like different people. Like that's what I'm trying to like understand.
Legally, should we? That's
just split personality disorder, right? I think, right, or something.
No, okay. So I do want to address
no,
that.
You only get one social security per body you have. If you can, if you have multiple bodies, then you get multiple social security IDs and all that shit. But
it'll be like the twins from Cyberpunk that you can fist fight.
Hurting you, again, if they are not hurting you, then like, why do we fucking care? Like,
no.
When it comes to things in
was
society
split personality. God damn it! I was
I
right. Fucking A.
People. So I want Empress to respond to that because I just want to make room for her. And then Johnny Scarlett, our friend. Yeah.
Thank you, friend. I just want to clarify something with regards to the accusations of DID or multiple personality disorder, or any number of other things, right? So while it is true that there are some people like who utilize this term system, some people use other terms you might have heard have been like, I don't know, two-spirit or something like that. Plural is another term that's often used, right? Well, no, so it can be in the same category of identity. Like I know two-spirit individuals. So there's kind of a number of different understandings how this can come about, right? But I think generally the best way to understand it is through neuroplasticity, right? So when your brain thinks about things and you develop patterns over time, you develop these pathways in your brain that become more likely to go down, right? And the theoretical understanding that's being operated on in individuals who don't have something like DID that are experiencing this, because it seems to be very common in people who are neurodivergent, right? So things like autism, ADHD, et cetera, is that it has to do with their brain being having very high neuroplasticity, and that it writes a lot of pathways very quickly, right? And then this effectively is recognized as almost different types of brain patterns, right, that form over time, more than a normal person would actually form. So this kind of results in, I think, to some people, a perception of different identities or different aspects of self, one might call them.
Let's go to Johnny Scarlett. And then we have a new person, Simplicon. I wanted to make sure they can speak. They're having trouble with the camera, but I just want to make sure they can speak. But Johnny Scarlett first.
Actually, no, you couldn't hear me. Yeah, I'm going to keep this as quick as possible, but I specifically came in on the set theory thing about it. I'm glad you stayed, Empress, because I wanted to respond to you on it. So there is a concept. When you talk about sufficiently large sets, it's incredibly, well, when you talk about math in general, it's incredibly wonderful, but also problematic to assume that math is going to be absolute in any way, shape, or form because of a little thing called Gödel's incompleteness, which was proven in 1943, I believe, which proves that for any sufficiently large set of rules, there will be contradictions within the set.
Correct.
And that's completely inescapable. And my entire life's work up until this point, which has been about 6 years, has been studying ways to combine Gödel's incompleteness and other forms of mathematical logic into a new, more modern form of philosophy that I think is more viable. And therefore, it's really scary to me when people start to equate something as squishy as gender, which is part of a human experience and not even a mathematical experience, to something like math, which they assume wrongly is absolute. Thank you.
Just to clarify, I wasn't equating it to gender, nor do I think mathematics is absolute. Okay. I just want to make sure that was clear to other people as well. Like, that was part of my problem with it to begin with.
Thank you, Johnny. You put it more eloquently than I ever could.
Yeah, nice work there.
Let's.
Yeah, perfect.
Hold on 1 second before we get to you, GSU. Again, I want to hear what you have to say. But Simplicon, you've been waiting or here for a while, and you haven't trouble with your camera. But what's up?
Awesome. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You have a nice voice.
See you, but we can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah. So with regards also to the kind of gender thing, I think there's kind of a big resistance where sex and gender, those two words, the definitions are like fucking challenged constantly. And like everybody wants to fucking, find a binary one or the other kind of thing. But like, I just don't understand why gender can't be considered in the same terms as like the word like personality, for instance, right? Like where there are many iterations, depending on who you talk to, it can be fucking, one or another, fucking one of an infinite number of things. Sorry, I'm fucking cursing and stuff, but yeah, like I just don't the gender thing you were talking about earlier. I just didn't feel anybody really discussed the possibility that maybe that is just an infinite spectrum, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can respond to that, and then I'll go back to you.
Yeah. I mean, if people want my official like position on gender or whatever, like. The entire thing's fucking made up to sell more like estrogen pills and funny hats and stuff like that. Like gender is completely made up. It's arbitrary. Doesn't matter. Ignore it at your free will. and trying to block basically anything because of gender reasons. It's stupid. Like scholarships, all of it, like you can access because it's impossible to tell if someone is actually transgender or not.
Yeah, but I think that's why it's a discussion, right? There's large parts of our experience in society that is like gender based or gender gated or blah blah blah, whatever we
we need to fix that.
Yeah, but I don't. It's just a sports thing, right? Like,
it's not just a sports thing, though.
No. I'm saying that's an argument that happens, right? Like, and it seems to be.
It is an argument. I don't care about that argument, though, and I think they are wrong, and I will push past them.
So in your ideal world, you would have one domain and just everybody battled out in that domain.
No, listen. I'm not an expert on sports, right? But there's a better way to balance things than fucking gender. I mean, boxers do it. They do it based on weight class.
Yeah, but they still do it within gender.
They also do it based on gender.
That's what I'm saying, though. That there are other methods of balancing these things aside from gender, right?
No, but
so like for example, we could do testosterone classes.
Real quick, I have to dispel something. I'm sorry, like this is gonna make some people mad, but even
go ahead.
A male and female of the same weight, the male is still going to be most likely way better than that female.
All right, well, again, guess what? Some smart guy who's hashing this stuff out can equate for that then.
But the smartest way that we've equated for it is gender, right? That's what we're saying.
That's not why we separate sports on the basis of gender. We do that primarily due to prior sexist systems that didn't allow women to participate in men's sports.
Hang on. Trying to put women in men's sports isn't going well.
That's a really bad take.
Reading. I don't think I was finished. So primarily due to discrimination in sports, as well as funding issues, right, with regards to legal systems. And this was developed into the schooling system, right, despite the fact that we had reintegrated after a certain point in time. So, like, yeah, this was literally, like, massively a funding thing, particularly in the U.S., which is why the U.S. has such good female athletes.
Yeah, Empress literally has history on her side.
No, this is the whole everything is the patriarchal tyranny.
Gambit, do you have anything to disprove her claim?
No, yes, I'm trying to talk. Listen, black people were discriminated against sports, but then we were like integrated. The idea that sports are solely discriminated because of the patriarchal tyranny is.
I didn't say that.
That's literally what you started off and said.
I said that's the primary reason that sports are structured the way they are today.
That's not correct.
No, it's not.
That's not correct.
It's not. Sorry, it's not because of Title IX. Are you saying Title IX didn't affect the modern day sports structure?
I'm saying Title IX was created because of physiological differences.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why Title IX exists.
Title IX was not created because of physiological differences. Title IX was created because schools. Hang on. Title IX was created because schools were refusing to fund programs for women's sports.
Yes. Title IX was supposed to guarantee that for every men's sport, you had a women's equivalent. That's what Title IX is about. That's totally stupid to say it was about anything else.
No, listen.
Yeah,
listen.
It was that. I read the NCAA book. And
No.
You should listen to what Gambit's point is. You should listen to what Gambit's point is.
Yeah, y'all are not understanding what I'm saying. You're saying that Title IX was aimed at addressing the issue because they weren't funding women's sports as well as men's sports, right? But why was there a difference in funding women in men's sports?
Because women were allowed to do sports because we were treated like property. What the fuck? Did you forget history class?
Do you remember that thing where they also created? Hang on, they had to create literally. If you consider what Title IX is a part of, right? This is the same reason that they had to mandate that you have gendered fucking bathrooms, and why there even are gendered bathroom laws in the first place. This way that we could force them to have bathrooms for women who weren't allowed to go to university, who were separated into segregated dorms, who were separated into segregated classes, weren't taken as seriously, and weren't allowed to compete.
Empress. Do those segregations still exist?
Yeah.
Are there segregations?
Oh my God. Okay.
Some yes, some no.
Okay.
Some yes, some no. So, for example, sororities and fraternities still exist.
Yes. Okay. Why do you think sports are still segregated today? So all the things that you said, all the things that y'all want to get hyper activated about, Oh, women were oppressed. Yes, we all agree with that. But they aren't oppressed.
You're
in
the
those
one
ways
getting
today.
pressed, dude.
Women are,
No,
you
no.
want to say that because women are have different performance levels than men. Is that what
Yes,
you're
exactly.
This
Yes.
is objectively true. Yes.
And the idea to boil
That
it
is-
down
that is
to
part of the reason,
past
yeah.
tyranny is silly.
That is part of the reason. It is not
I
the
have a
only
different
reason.
performance
Nor is
level
it even the
than
majority
Empress,
reason.
though.
It is
Not the
not
majority reason.
tyranny to say that women get the same sports as men. But what
You're not
what
listening.
you're
You're just
saying,
saying-
GSU, what
No,
you're
what
saying,
you're saying
GSU, and I
doesn't
know
even-
you got mad at me because I got pressed, but frankly,
no.
it was kind of stupid of you to say that.
No.
So, with the
Okay.
history of Title IX, it is entirely okay to say that it is an after effect of Title IX that we don't have better weight and height classifications for even women and men's sports as a duality. Like the fact that the American education system is underfunded is the reason why these have not been overhauled. And as they get overhauled, and at the top levels of athletes, people are actually testing for things like hormone levels and muscle density, etc., so that we can make sure people are in the right weight class. So if you want to get into professional sports, I would love to have that discussion with you and how there are better ways. But if you're going to blame it on something like Title IX, which just guarantees that women are allowed to have
Oh my
He can say that.
God.
You blamed it on Title
I
IX.
can't even engage with this. This is
You
like-
blamed it on Title
Why
IX.
not? Why
Sorry.
can't you engage with it? I spit facts at you, and
Because
then you, don't
you
just
heard his fee-fees.
imagine like I didn't say shit.
I don't want to interrupt you, Prime. Johnny, you were the one saying it's Title IX. It's the point is that the sports are segregated because of performance differences between male and female.
Of course.
That's the
they
primary
are
reason.
separated because
This is
of
not
Title
true.
Guys, can I
IX,
make
and
a
you
point?
asked.
They're separated because
Hold
women
on.
weren't allowed to compete
Can we
with
just
men.
cut past this and just get to the actual point real quick?
Can I make a point?
Okay, don't. I'll start meeting people.
Can I go now?
Okay, look, hold on, Gambit. Fab, you want to say something?
Guys,
No.
can I make a point, please?
Oh yeah. Okay, so you go ahead.
1 point. So let's keep it real. If you look at the majority of the American football, right, it's black because black people are much better athletes. But
Oh,
let's
no.
take down like no,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are.
dude.
No, when it
Wait.
no, they are.
Let's not go into racism.
But hear me out. Hear me out. No. Hear me out. If you go to wrestling, though, right? If you go to wrestling, when it comes down to it, most people like from Russia, like Central Asian countries, they're better performers. Doesn't mean it has to do with race. It just has to do like this. And does this mean that a white man can be better than a black man? Of course they can. I mean, you can make the argument right now. The best
Okay,
quarterback
hold
in the-
on. Can we
the
just
best- I'm
ignore
so
this
confused
and
what
move
this
on?
has to do with the gender thing.
best player.
Wait.
It's like I don't
I'm
get
begging
the
you.
point where,
Racial
like, y'all complete
essentialism,
discrimination.
please no.
How's there discrimination in
For your
sports?
own good, don't complete it.
Yeah,
No,
No,
listen.
but what's the discrimination in sports? What's the discrimination in sports? I
Oh
don't
no,
get
on the
that.
basis
Like,
of
what's the
gender.
whole-
I
Okay,
mean, like,
hold
there
on,
historically
hold-
was
wait.
racial discrimination
I wanted-
in sports, but like literally women were not allowed to compete with men, which is why they had to
Okay.
form
Black
women's
people,
leagues.
black
And
people
still
weren't
are.
allowed to
Psychology.
compete with white.
But
with
what
white
the thing
people,
is,
right?
Ron yammed on this part.
Do y'all not know
Okay,
the
fuck
history of
this.
black
Okay,
people
hold
in
on,
sports?
real quick. We need to cut through this bullshit and like get to the actual topic. Okay, so like what I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure
I'm
the
just being
people
honest.
I'm pretty sure Johnny and I'm not looking at the names right now, but it was Johnny and like one or two other people. I'm pretty sure they're trying to advocate for like women being able to compete in male sports, and I would argue, and like this is
But it would be hard.
let me finish my fucking point. I would argue, and this has been shown already with like Serena Williams and like if you're the if you're other
Are you
people
talking about
as-
the tennis
as well.
player
Hold on.
that her and her sister competed against?
Yeah, and
I will
and they
fucking
lost
own you on
really
this.
bad. But okay, but real quick
College
though,
D,
like
are we talking about college D1
oh
athlete,
my
right?
fucking
No,
let
no,
me
hang
finish.
on,
Shut the
let me
fuck up,
finish.
please. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
trying to.
So like if you put men and women even in the same weight class, men have like many have like more muscle, have can carry more oxygen in their lungs. They have many advantages that will just make them better than that female even in the same height and weight class. So please do not force women to play with men. It will not work out.
Hi,
Okay.
sweetie. Can I respond to this because you brought up my name and you falsely equated something that I was saying? So
Sure, go ahead.
no, I'm not advocating for women to by and large compete with men, because there is something called a sexual dichotomy. It's something that by and large across 90% of the population affects most people, sweetie. And therefore, you
Don't try to be
should-
condescending. Hold on.
excuse me, because you brought my name up. So if you are looking for a way that is better, that will integrate people who are either intersex, gender nonconforming, what the fuck ever, who are taking hormones especially. If you want to include those people and you're asking for a better way to classify people, then I need you to understand that there are weight classifications, there are
I understand this. Stop being condescending. I never said any of that. Holy shit.
Excuse me.
He's not done.
Depending on the aim of the sport, none of what you're even saying is relevant. And things
Wait,
like,
which one? Please name one then.
Oh,
Are you going to let her finish?
muscle density in a person who's playing tennis, where they're not literally wrestling a person. Like, how are you gonna say that? How are you gonna say that
Muscle
Twitch,
density has nothing to do
Muscle
with
How are you gonna say? How are you gonna say
how
that
hard you can hit the ball, how fast you can move.
Okay, don't worry. I will mute. Fine, I'll just mute you, and they'll make it this much easier. All right, go
How
ahead.
are you going to tell an athlete with a straight face that muscle density is more important than Twitch reaction in something like tennis? How are you going to do that?
All of
Between men and women, Twitch
tennis.
That's what I'm talking about, sweetie. Muscle
Yeah.
density is not speed and Twitch reaction. You literally just steal me.
No. Oh my God. This...
I'm gonna unmute because I just wanted to quickly say. I know I'm sorry, but I just wanted to quickly say. But I love
Can I
you.
please say something?
No,
I was a
I'm
professional
literally talking. Anyway, I just wanted to say quickly, Johnny. I love when you say the word "sweetie" in your beautiful Southern accent. But I
I'm interrupting people. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, that's fine. I love it when you say "sweetie" in your beautiful Southern accent, but I also never want you to say it to me because that's when you're mad. So, but anyway, well, I'll mute because Adam, you can say something.
Okay, wait. She attacked me. Hold on, can I respond?
Yeah, holy
go
shit,
for it.
dude! You'll found that fucking face now. Adam, go now, or don't ask me again. Adam, right now, you.
Come
What's
at
your
me.
name?
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yes. So what's your name? Is it Enum?
Oh,
Or is it
Emin.
My fault.
So here's the thing about sports. Muscle does matter because here's why. When I was playing wrestling, right? Listen to me before ignoring me. Listen to me. I had to increase my muscles there in order to increase my speed to do counterparts and stuff like that. And like this, my twitchness or my quickness did not just come just because of mental or anything or like this. I had to prepare myself physically for that. Like you know how you eat breakfast to nutrition and stuff like that. I had to do that. Now does that mean
You dainty girls
Baby.
could never train.
No.
I have no idea what
Here.
you're trying to say because
No,
the
hear me
Twitch-
out. Hear me out. It doesn't matter how much twitch
Johnny's
you have. You don't have
talking
muscle.
about fast twitch muscle fibers,
If you
which
don't
are
have
like
muscle,
muscle fiber.
Yes.
Exactly, Viv. Muscle
It doesn't-
muscle fiber density and muscle fiber elasticity are two completely different training sectors, and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I am
And
know what I'm
also,
talking about
in
because I was in the
wrestling
state.
is
I was
exactly
in
in
the state.
wrestling is exactly the case where I said muscle density matters because
No,
unlike
I
in
also
tennis,
played football.
muscle
I also
twitch is
played
not as big
football
of a
too in
factor.
America.
He plays football.
I
Wait,
played football
you
as
think
a tight end.
Wait, Johnny, you think muscle
I'm sorry, I'm a
density
rock climber and I don't know
doesn't matter in
shit, so.
I'm saying that depending on the aims of the sport, muscle
There
twitch
is-
and muscle density are two different factors, and they may play into one another differently. If you are not
Prime,
literally
can I go in?
wrestling a person, then
There
I
is-
don't think that it is the case of most people that something like muscle density is important. I'm saying that for every single
No.
sport, you should look at what the actual aims
Listen,
of the sport are.
there is
and
You didn't
then,
hear me out.
There
You
is
didn't
no
hear me out.
active
I didn't
sport
finish
at all where muscle density doesn't matter. This is so stupid.
Yeah.
baby, they're two
No,
completely
hear me
different
out.
I didn't
Hear me
say
out.
they weren't
They're
different.
different things, Johnny, but they
Can I finish my
it
last
doesn't
thing?
matter.
Can I finish my last?
I never got to go.
Can I say
Not
something?
different, though.
Okay.
I never
No,
got
but can I finish something before I leave?
I'm still
And then you
muted,
can
by the
come
way.
back.
Oh, shut up.
Just one last thing.
Holy shit, dude.
Just one
Okay,
thing.
sorry. Fuck. You're new here.
Just one last
Wait,
thing.
Hold on. fuck, dude. You're new here, so I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you don't understand. I'm the streamer here. When I say to shut the fuck up, you shut the fuck up immediately. You know what? It doesn't matter what you're doing. You just shut the fuck up. Okay? You got that? You got that?
I could say that. You could just be
No,
quiet.
excuse me.
Yeah.
If you don't get that now, I can just ban you and we can be done with this. When I say to
No, I
shut
mean,
the
you
fuck
can
up,
say respectfully. You can
Don't
say
worry.
respectfully. Be quiet.
don't worry. Okay.
Be quiet. I will. Okay.
Fuck off. Anyway, I don't know why it's so hard. I don't know why that was so hard. Anyway, I'm gonna unmute Casino, and then after that we'll go to Gambit.
Wait, can I go now? Or
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole tennis bullshit, sweetie, that you were saying earlier with that with how like Twitch
Yes,
Twitch
sweetie.
muscles and density like don't matter in
mad
in tennis. Like that's. I mean, technically, you're right that yes, they are different. Yes,
There's
but
no domain where she's right.
But
There's no domain that is
oh
right.
my
Fuck off,
god,
Gambit.
you're both wrong, and I hate you both. Please shut the fuck up. I'm trying to finish here. I swear to God. Okay,
No,
so
not wrong at all.
even though the muscles are different, that doesn't mean that like in tennis specifically, where we already had Serena Williams lose to a top 200 dude who is playing like a top
Oh my God,
500
okay, stop.
based on. I'm not done.
He
Shut the
was
fuck
ranked
up.
38th in doubles in the same year. You're lying about his record.
What?
Let him finish.
Okay.
He wasn't playing singles that year.
Casino, finish, please.
Okay, so even if that's true, Serena Williams was ranked 1 or like 2, right? And he was 38th. So like all else being equal, she should have still won. You fucking dipshit. Okay. So either
Why?
way, and on top of this, like he did say that he was playing like a top 500 player. Anyways, he was handicapping himself, and he still beat the living crap out of her. Okay. So
I don't know where you're getting that from.
I can show you the article later.
I mean, I
okay?
have the
But
quotes from his trainer. I don't know what I've never heard that quote before from him.
I'll show you
Because
later,
again,
okay?
at
But
the time, he was playing.
I
top
literally
38 in
just
doubles.
read about this like 2 weeks ago. Okay, I'll show
Then I
you.
would suggest looking
I'll
at the
send.
record of the
I'll
individual you're
send
talking
you
about.
the source in like 5
Wait.
minutes. Let me finish.
I can
God
send
damn.
you his record right now. I have it in
Wait,
front of me.
top 38 in
God.
doubles doesn't matter in a singles match, though.
Either
No,
way.
he
Okay,
literally-
so
he's citing his
any-
singles rank in a year
Oh
that he
my
wasn't
fucking
playing
God.
singles. That's the whole point.
No, but
anyways, gender or like what your
He was ranked up to 34th
what's
in
your
singles
sex
2 years prior.
Oh my God, shut up. What your sex is at birth does like affect all sports, including tennis, and we've seen this shown before. Okay, so yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, sometimes it means you do better in a sport. Hello, Prime. I'm quite happy to issue a fucking debate challenge to anyone who wants to fucking debate this shit with me one-on-one. But across all sports, there's sort of there's about a 10% difference between men's and women's sports at the elite level. That difference decreases as you go down towards like amateur sport, right? So till it's like almost invisible at the lowest levels. This isn't true across all sport, right? I'm saying that this is a generality. So there are actually some sports, I think like long distance running or something, where women actually do better than men on average, right? But when you're talking about segregating sport, I think the problem is everybody goes straight for like the advantages that being assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth might provide somebody, but nobody answers the fundamental question of why you would want to segregate sport at all, right? The usual answer is something along the lines of, oh, we want fairness, or oh, we want a level playing field. But like, that's an incredibly ill-defined answer. What the fuck does that mean? Why are we segregating based on gender and not segregating based on height? Why are we segregating on gender and not segregating
Wait, no.
based on...
Okay. Keep going, but we have been answering this. We've been saying that we're answering the fundamental question. The answer that we're giving to the fundamental question of why segregate at all is that because biological males have a physical advantage over biological females, and there's no way to necessarily completely reduce it. And
First
it
off, biological
offers...
male and biological female are not categories that are used in any kind of academic literature. They're made up by anti-trans activists in order to discount the idea that trans people ought to play sport with the gender that they identify.
No, I don't think
that's
true.
not.
But we can
That's not
talk
true.
about assigned male and assigned
It is
female at
true.
birth people. That's fine.
No.
All right.
They're one and the
But
same.
you're
basically,
actually
okay.
wrong, right? in many sports, right, height is a much better determinant of your success than your gender, right? Like in basketball, for instance,
In
if
no
you're
sport is
incredibly
that true.
fucking short, it doesn't matter how many. Wait.
You kidding
If
me?
in
That's not
basketball,
true
for
in
instance,
any
if you're
sport.
Shut the
incredibly
fuck up.
fucking
You interrupt
shut
people
the
all the
fuck
time,
up.
dude.
Gambit, I'm almost done. And you can have your say afterwards, right? In basketball, right? If you're 4 foot fucking nothing, okay, it doesn't matter how manly you are, right? You're still probably not going to be making the NBA, right? Or even the WNBA, okay? Height is a much better determinant than gender in terms of like how successful you're going to be at a game like that. Go ahead, JSC.
Okay. The claim that there is no sport in existence that I can think of where height, like women being taller can help them compete with professional men. There's no sport in existence. It's almost as dumb as to take that muscle density doesn't matter. These are such silly arguments.
Okay.
Real quick,
I
who
love
wanted
the
my
only arguments against. Hang on, I want to point out the only argument against Johnny Boy so far.
Oh, we have 3 people talking at the same time. No one can hear anything you're saying.
The reason that I know all of these things is because I'm a 6'1" female who was allowed to compete with men. I was allowed to compete with men in certain sports, and we
That's
had
because
to
men's
look
sports allow women to compete.
Excuse me. We had to look at what sports were best for me to play because there are factors that come into play. Like if I was to play football, which I know we all love, there is a high contact, and therefore people with a higher bone density, aka the average male, would have a higher chance of breaking my bone. So therefore, the sports that I was competing with men in were non-contact running oriented sports like track. So if you take into account the actual structure of the sport and how people train and what their actual physiology is when after they hit puberty, yes, there are some biological women who can compete with men.
We just went over amateur
Or
versus
they can lose
elite,
and they
but
can
okay.
get fucking better because I think what y'all are really scared of is women losing to men and y'all having to hear about it. And I have to tell y'all, we'd rather just compete with you so that you could shut the fuck up.
No.
Okay, who wanted my source? I have the source. Who wanted my source?
It's really important
Somebody
to
wanted it?
recognize
Hello?
what GSU Gambit did there was like go off on a non sequitur like he always fucking does, right? Like my point was not right that all women can compete against all men if they are the same height. What I said
That's
was
not what I said.
What I said was that sometimes in some sports, right, in many sports, in fact, height is a better determinant of your success than your gender. Right,
and I disagree with that claim. That's exactly what I said.
You didn't disagree with that claim.
Yes, that's exactly what I said.
No,
he did disagree with that claim. He said it earlier. Okay, he did.
100%
disagree with
that claim.
That's not the claim.
That's
that
not what your dumbass
yes,
heard.
he literally disagreed with that claim. I'm recording right now.
What he said was, being the same height, women. There's no sport that I know of in which women who are the same height as men are going to perform as well as men. Right?
That's not what I said.
That was almost
That is
verbatim
true.
what you
Yes,
said.
that's also true though.
But that's not what I said.
No, it's not. Okay. And two, even if it were, it wouldn't make the case that
Don't straw man me and say even if you said that I'm going to argue against.
Oh my fucking god!
Okay, how about this? Mixed Vivian Wolf has already challenged someone. Challenge people to a debate. Gab, I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
But challenge people to debate on this particular issue. It might be good if we didn't have a bunch of people on the panel to do that. So, would you like a 1v1 debate or a 2v2 if there's another person who wants to jump in on this?
On which side? I mean, I'll debate it, but I don't know. Like, I don't agree with basically. Well, minus Vivian. Like, everybody else is just wrong. I'd argue. Like.
Well, then no one asked you, dude.
My position is that for the moment, I would rather we get rid of the classes altogether. But for the moment, that anybody who identifies as a woman should be able to play in women's sports, regardless of whether or not they have undergone HRT, regardless of whether or not they were assigned male or female at birth.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you feel
so this is
the UFC scenarios?
So hold on. Answer my question. Would one of you like to, or two of you, like to debate mixed Fabian Wolf on this?
I'll do it later, or we can do it like now. I don't want like.
No, not now.
Oh,
thank
now?
you,
Wait, now? I'll do it now.
I
But
said
like,
not. Holy shit! Did you not hear? Why do you always seem to hear the opposite of what I'm telling you?
You
I didn't
said
say
no.
now. I don't know what.
I heard now. Somebody said
always
no.
like literally the opposite of what I'm saying is what you seem to hear. Anyway, thank you, T Jam. That's or T Jar, excuse me, for a tier 3 sub. Wow, that's really kind of you. That like hardly ever fucking happens. That's really really kind of you. Thank you so much for being here. And tier 3 subs do get a guaranteed spot on here. But we're doing our open panels. So like I'll little toss someone else off for a tier 3 sub. Yeah. So. So you literally okay? Hold on. You really want this now?
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, we'd love to have you in the future. So can we set that up? Is there people who want to?
We want to talk about. I don't even understand what the argument would be. My argument is that there's no better way to slice sports than gender.
Okay,
better.
If the take is just gonna be, hey, I want everybody to be able to play it, that's not really an argument against my argument. I don't like.
Well, I've already given my position, right? My position.
I understand your position.
Okay, is whoever identifies as a woman should be able to compete as a woman, regardless of any other factors, right? That's my position. And if anybody cares to like take up the opposite position, then I'm willing to have a debate. If you're not willing to take up the opposite position, then that's fine.
I'm 100% willing to take up the opposite position. I just don't see how we could ever have a conversation about it. Like the foundation of your argument, I don't understand it. So
sit down, dude.
Yeah, like somebody else can go GSU. It's perfectly fine. I don't mind.
I don't think anyone can. I
understand what he's talking about.
Okay,
Viv, I would actually like to disagree with you, and I would like to say that I do think there are better ways to classify sports, especially with people who are going through puberty. Which is the majority of people who are in sports in America today. Yeah, I think that we could absolutely do things by height and weight class depending on the sport and actually have a nuanced discussion about what the aims of different sports are and how people compete in them so that they don't get hurt most effectively.
Yeah,
that's, I think, a better set of tangents. That's a better set of tangents to go down than just to say that you literally don't have an argument.
I'll join in too, I guess. Like I would argue that like we should do both.
Johnny,
what? Hey, am I not talking here? Okay.
Yeah, I would Gambit. No one asked.
I would argue that like we should literally do both. Where like we separate it by sex or by sex, and then also separate it by weight and height class.
But why, if one of those categorizations is going to be like more equitable than the others, why even have like those separate categories? Like I don't get it. If you're going to have something that
mine would be the most
possible, equitable. I don't get why you would do that.
Wait, hold on. Mine would be objectively. So you're separating people who are
by sex.
Well, so it's not just sex. If you were listening to what I was saying, I was saying sex. So assign male or female at birth, separate those two, and then also on top of that, separate by weight and height class. So that way, it is completely like equitable in all ways. I would argue that's like the best.
I look forward to all of this when you have to race against like trans men, wrestle against trans men like Mac Biggs. That would be fun. What a great fucking idea.
Okay, so
I mean, like, look, if you want to wrestle, I'll wrestle.
So my argument is there's no better way to segregate sports than
no, not you specifically, just generally.
And if somebody wants to debate that, let me know.
Kick your ass in Minecraft.
Sorry. Can you say that last part again, GSG? I'm sorry.
I said there's no better to segregate sports than the way that we do today, and if anybody wants to argue against that,
Oh
we can.
boy, you just wrong. I'll take you on like
after. I'll fucking debate that one. That's fucking easy, dude.
No, wait, no, that's my prey. Fuck you, Vivian. That's my prey. Fuck out of here. Nope. Don't take that one.
Okay, mix Vivian Wolf. Do you want to take him tomorrow? Oh, sorry, in GSG again, but do you want to?
I thought I was taking on.
I want to do this after stream.
Sorry, what? Excuse me. Sean,
I thought I was taking casino, but sure, if you want me to take on GSU Gambit, I just like, if we can't agree to the terms of the debate, I think it's very, like, I don't think he agrees with my original statement. If you identify as a woman, you ought to be able to compete as a woman, right? He doesn't agree with that statement.
Right.
So, like,
Me?
that's the terms, right? Like,
okay, all right.
Yeah, and if he disagrees with that, we'll debate it. It's fine.
Okay. So, do you want to, as I'm asking, do you want to do this tomorrow? Or at least
I
Friday?
can't.
You can't?
Sure. I can't do it tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we can.
DM something afterwards, Prime. It's all good.
Yeah, we can figure it out afterwards. But yeah, if you want to fight, then let's do it. Let's fight. Okay then. In that case, to my audience, thanks all for being here. First of all, follow me if you have not followed me yet. We have these kind of conversations all the time. It's a regular thing for us. We do this 6 days a week. 6 days a week we provide you this content. So if you've been interested in any of this, right, do me a favor, hit that follow button, hit that notification bell right now, so you don't miss out. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll have something. We'll do something. We'll have another open panel. It'll be fun, or maybe we'll manage to get a debate scheduled or something by that time. But you won't be a part of it if you don't hit that follow button right this moment. Yeah. So I wanted to thank my people, especially. Well, I'm gonna start with GSU Gambit because, goddamn it, GSU, you've been here the entire time.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
10 hours.
Jesus Christ.
I've also been here the entire time, but it's fine. I don't talk much, so it's okay.
Well, you weren't here for the ABE panel, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, I was there. Oh yeah, that part. I was here
Yeah.
for the open panel the entire time.
Yeah. But thank you, Gambit dude, for coming through. So thank you. It's really kind of you. Is there any? Johnny Scarlett, thank you for coming by, everyone. I'm putting their links in chat. And Mixer Wolf, though I don't think you're ever stream.
Wait, I stream. I'm streaming right now.
Sorry, what? You just keep talking over me. I had no idea what you're talking. Anyway, moving on. Are there any other streamers here? Empress, you're a streamer, right? Yeah, that's right.
Allegedly. I'll be doing drunk debates tonight at 8 p.m. Be there, or be square.
Professor, it's right there. Okay. And then last but not least, we have a friend Doobie, the pig sort of monster in the corner. Doobie runs the Politics Discord server. You will find someone to argue with you at every point in time. No matter what it is, you will find someone day or night. Discord.gg/politics. It's in the chat. Hey, seriously, click on it. You'll have an experience.
It is an experience.
You'll have an experience.
Dude, what even is your
Empress?
PrimeCayes just
It's a blobfish. Just so you guys are aware, you guys watching, we're gonna have anti-racism activist Daryl Davis on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Oh wow,
that should be really interesting. So hope to see you there.
Yeah, Daryl Davis is iconic.
I think so too. Okay. Yeah, definitely go to the discord.gg/politics. The server, the link is in chat. Everyone, check them out. You'll experience something there. Anyway, we are going to raid, and once again, well, first of all, fucking everyone's offline. But we're gonna raid our good friend, our relevant once again. Give another next surprise. Be kind to him and come back tomorrow. It'll be great or something. I don't know.
Rewind.
Yeah.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah.
Fuck the police, suck anime titties. Good night.
Yeah. Take this.
All right. So before you guys
on that?
leave, somebody wanted my source on the tennis match between Williams and the one guy. I have it. I've had it for a while.
Okay.
Are you still here, or?
I'm familiar with the match. It wasn't that I didn't ask for a source. I said that you got his stats wrong. Because you left out the fact that 4 years prior he was ranked 38th in singles, and literally that year, the previous year ranked 36th in doubles. But you said he ranked 250th. He was ranked 250th in singles because he wasn't playing singles that year. He had switched primarily to playing doubles. So he wasn't training for singles, and he wasn't playing in singles tournaments.
But he was still so he wasn't even playing singles, and he wasn't
But
even
he
training
still
that
beat
year, and he
Serena.
still beat Serena Williams.
Yeah.
He was training doubles. He was playing doubles. He was
So
ranked
he was
38th
rusty.
in doubles.
So
that's damning. That's damning.
So he
to
was
your
rusty.
point.
It's not good. Yeah.
In
How is
singles.
that damning?
Because he was rusty.
Again, you're painting him as having been a 250th seed when he was a 38th seed in doubles.
No,
you lied about his stats. That was my contention.
Everybody
Hold on.
concedes that in previous years he was ranked higher than he was the year where he obviously wasn't. That wasn't his main thing, right? I don't think anybody on the panel is disagreeing with you. So when you say he said something wrong, he said correct things. He just didn't.
Well, no, he said he was ranked 250th.
But
What
he
he left out is
that
that was his
year.
singles. What he left out was that was only his singles rating in a year he didn't play singles. Didn't
Yes,
even mention that he
exactly.
played doubles. Didn't mention that he was still a
Wait.
top-ranked seed. Said that he was ranked 250th.
Wait, hold on.
Painting it as though
Professor
some random
Ward.
tennis player
Professor
had come and
Ward.
beaten Serena Williams.
Professor
When he was
Ward.
literally ranked.
Wait,
that
hold on.
year,
Profe-
top 50.
Wait, Professor War, who do you think knows more about rankings? You or the actual people who rank these people? Please tell me. Who do you think?
I'm going by his rankings from that year.
Oh my!
What
so,
are you
okay,
going by?
his
I'm going by
ranking,
his doubles ranking.
his ranking for that year in singles was 200th, right?
In a
yes,
year,
yes
he
or no,
wasn't
yes or no, yes or
competing
no,
in singles.
yes
He
or
was
yes or no,
Look at
yes
the
or no,
tournaments he was competing
yes
in
or
that
no.
year. Look at the tournaments he was competing in that year.
Empress, yes or no?
The point is he wasn't competing in singles that year. He was competing in doubles, and he was high in doubles, but he wasn't competing in singles that year, and he still
So his
beat
rank
the best woman in the world. That's the point.
Cool.
Yeah, because the top 30. Because again, you're comparing. Hang on. So the reason I object to this comparison, right, and the reason I objected when you said it's a random 250 guy compared to a top 50 guy, right? Because there's a massive distinction. GSU, are you seriously going to sit here and tell me that a fucking top 50 player in any fucking video game or any fucking sport is in the same caliber as a player as a fucking bottom 250 player?
That's not. Wait.
They're very
This is
similar.
a massive distinction.
Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on.
ask a question. I
You
would
have
ask
no idea what the fuck you're talking about, because especially in like really popular games, yes, top 250 players can beat top 50 players. Yes, this happens
I didn't
all the
say
fucking
can
time.
they beat them? I said, are they
They're
in the
they're
same
in the
caliber?
yes they are. Yes
A
they are.
bottom- a bottom
Objectively,
250
yes they
gathering
are.
Player can beat a top 50 200
Yes,
gathering player.
top
One is gonna have a higher
250
win
top
rate than another.
250 players.
And the reason
and
this is
like
particularly relevant. Hang on, I didn't even get to the point of why this is relevant.
No, but
because
you
the
asked me
entire
a
argument was
question.
that there are. Hang on, the entire point was that there are ranges of physical ability. So it matters if you're comparing someone who is literally in the top 50, right, compared to a more midline player in the professional scene.
Okay.
Comparatively
Empress, you asked me a
speaking.
Empress, you asked me a question. Are you going to allow me to answer, or are you just asking for yourself?
Wait, he was talking to me. Man.
My
Or
entire
she was, but
contention is that you're calling this person in the top 200 random. Whether he's 200 or 50, he's damn good. He's ranked in the nation in the top 200. Like that.
But he first, my entire contention is how he was presented to the chat.
No, but I'm talking about how you.
I wasn't wrong when I presented him that way.
I said a random 250 player compared to
Hey.
a top 50 player. Yes,
Empress.
it was very clear.
Empress,
Yes, I
there's
agree
a-
that these are. If you don't agree that these are fundamentally different categories of player, I don't know how to have a conversation with this about you.
We
About
agree
this.
that
Okay.
they're different levels.
Okay, it was a misleading statistic to be using, right?
No,
If
it
you're
was
using
not.
singles-
No.
If you're using a singles rank for a fucking year in which he wasn't playing, then that's kind of misleading.
Because he
as to his
played in that
actual ability.
year. Oh my god, this is
Only
bullshit.
fucking point that's being made.
He played if he was ranked, right?
Okay, no, hold on. They're attacking my point. I need to fucking respond. Empress,
on how
I
rankings
asked
come
you a question for a fucking reason. Who do you think knows more about ranking these people? You or the people who actually rank these people like every year,
How do you
and it's
think
their
they're
job
ranked?
to do
Say them.
so.
Just say the experts so we can get to the question. The experts know more.
No,
There, done.
wait. So where do you think rankings come from?
Oh my god.
Oh god.
Do you think they just
Because they
analyze
don't just come
and go, aha, I have deduced that this person is in the top fit. No, they play games
performance record.
and their ranking
Yes,
moves up and
that's
down
right.
accordingly. So if they don't play any games, their ranking
So I don't
moves
care what an
down,
expert
right?
says. Yeah.
You don't care what an expert says. Okay, fine.
That's
all I need to hear.
What
I
their
guess,
actual
fine.
ranking was, rather than some
Okay,
arbitrary
okay.
measure of
So
performance.
you know what? Fine. I'll bite that bullet. They were top 38. That still doesn't change the argument. You realize this is
It
right.
does fundamentally change the
No,
argument.
wait,
It's
hold
literally
on.
just
Yeah, it does, actually.
It barely. Vivian, shut the fuck up. It barely changes anything. Okay, so top 38 versus Serena Williams, who was like what, dominant for like years, being like top 1, top 2 every single fucking year. Either way, Serena Williams, everything else equal, should have won if women could compete on the same level as men. But guess what? She still got thrashed.
No, that doesn't logically
One, that
follow.
doesn't
That's
follow.
not.
2, I can explain to you why this proves our argument.
Okay, hold on. So it's
this wonderful thing that we've been arguing from the beginning called an overlapping bell curve.
Okay, so
this is why it matters as to whether or not he was ranked 250 or 38.
Okay, so what I'm arguing against is that like women in like elite sports can compete with like any of the like top guys up there, right? So like even if he was ranked 38th, if women are like on par with men on like everything else, and like the only reason why we don't let them compete with men is just because they're women, it should follow that the dominant female for like years of like being the top 1 or like top 2 person who like can't be beat by like basically anybody else should at least like tie or beat the number 38 male.
Why?
Right?
Why would that? How is that in any way
hold
built
on.
into our argument?
Oh my God! Do you not understand? Do you not understand?
Do I understand that there are biological differences in terms of averages between men and women? Yes, I believe that every single person on this panel has asserted that to be the case. So I don't know why you're continuing to argue against this straw man position. I'm arguing that the relevance of his stats, right, which is why I immediately objected when you present him as a bottom 250 player compared to, again, a player who was ranked 38th in doubles the previous year, right? 38th.
Okay.
Right? The reason I objected to this is because we're talking about... Okay. Yeah. Because we're talking about overlapping bell curves of skill level, right? So yes, the best woman, right, is going to be significantly closer, right, or even beyond the average man. But once you start going down that bell curve, right, of skill level into the top echelon, the top 50 players in the fucking world, you're no longer making a comparison. Which is why, again, both me, Johnny, and Vivian have all argued for separating sports into body and salient categories.
I don't disagree.
As opposed to gender categories.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so...
Also, his physical stats were not equivalent to the Williams twins. You can look this up. Like, his physical stats were not the same.
When you say his physical stats, what are you talking about? What do you mean physical stats?
His height and weight, because he's saying that all things are equal between these two individuals. It's just not true.
No, he's not. He's not saying the entire.
No, he did say that initially. He said this initially in his first argument, saying that even when you have two people of similar stature and size competing in a tennis tournament, which is not what happened in this tournament either.
I was talking about.
Wait,
I am right here. I can talk about what I was saying. I'm literally right here. Okay, you don't have to straw man me. Holy fuck. I was talking about if we have like literally the champion of the female league, right? Who is like seen by literally everybody as like the best, like better than like everybody else. The number 38th male should be worse if all things are equal. But I guess you don't let me.
So
I am not Johnny. I'm not Johnny. Princess, both of you shut the fuck up. I'm not done. 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 There's a part 2 to what I was saying.
Please continue throwing a tantrum.
Oh my fucking god.
Across the fucking board, then you have literally not been listening to a single thing, and you're the dumbest fucking person here.
Johnny, can you finish?
Nobody has been saying that the top echelons of men and the top echelons of women are the same, because by and large they fucking aren't. We're talking about people who were going through puberty puberty in a fucking high school who are being segregated into bathrooms and sports based on arbitrary shit that doesn't matter at their level.
We're also talking about
Why
the
are
top
you trying-
echelons, Johnny. We're also talking about that.
We're talking about top echelons.
But we are, so it doesn't matter if you
Yeah,
give a
like,
shit.
you
It's
can't-
a conversation.
You haven't made a fucking argument. Why do I have to
Our conversation, Johnny. Wait, hold on. Johnny attacked me directly. Let me. Johnny attacked me directly. Let me respond. Johnny attacked me directly. Let me respond.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
No, Johnny attacked me directly. I have to respond.
Johnny is not gonna live.
But like, what's interesting is
my
what I
benefit,
find interesting is that this was part of. So you cite the Williams twins, right? What you don't cite is the other 7 or 8 battles of the sexes that have occurred throughout tennis history, right? You don't talk about any of those matches because in a number of those matches, the women beat the men's pairs. And the other thing that you're not taking into account is that these are exhibition matches. These are not tournament matches. So like, and they're not playing 3 sets in most of these matches. So like, in the 2 sets that were played, right? I believe he played 1 set against each twin, right? One of them beat him twice, the other beat him once. Out of, I believe, 7 matches. So like, it's like this is like incredibly dishonest.
Hold
You're
on.
cherry picking
So,
data from the battles of the sexes.
out of 7 matches, one of them beat him once and one of them beat him twice. So he beat one 6 times and won 5 times, basically.
No, I believe he beat both 6 times.
Okay,
Wait,
so
I wanna ask a question
so
just
basically
'cause
he
I
still
just- I just
dominated
got
them.
here.
Okay, fine. Like,
right, but if you compare this to the other battles of the sexes where women won, again, you're taking this out of context from the larger data set.
Yeah, but the battle
Wait,
of the
you
sexes.
saying
I mean,
they
is
won
it
doubles though,
top
right? You're
women
not.
doubles versus top men's doubles?
It depends on which one.
No, but you switched from singles to doubles, and doubles.
He
is
was
a lot-
playing singles matches against them,
No,
but he
no,
wasn't
no,
playing
no,
singles
no, no.
matches that year.
We're talking about Battle of the
No,
Sexes.
we're talking about
Battle of the
Sexes.
Sexes is a Battle of the Sexes is a number of different events.
Yes.
Some were doubles, some were singles.
Right.
You specifically
This
referenced
particular
doubles.
What?
You specifically
I mentioned doubles in relevance to his record.
I know, and this is the question.
What does that have to do with the
I-
Battle of the Sexes?
This is the question
mentioned
I'm
it in
trying
Battle of the
to. Yeah, listen, Empress. I'm trying to explain. If you'll just let me talk, okay? We're talking about singles, right? This guy versus Serena, and this guy versus Venus. You switched up and you paired to Battle of the Sexes doubles competition. Women's have won, but I was going to ask you. This is what I want to ask you: are there Battle of the Sexes singles where the woman won, so that it can translate to the conversation that you were just having?
Yes, Dorothy Round versus Bunny Austin in 1936.
Battle of the Sexes, tennis. What?
Yeah.
Hold on.
This is what happens when you don't
Let me
come
Google
into a
this.
conversation with like the data already in front of you because you're not actually passionate about it because it has never actually
What are-
affected your life.
What are
Like
you
that's
talking?
the kind of
This is
Google.
No,
such
Johnny,
an ass.
that's not
This is
fair.
so dumb. What are
You
you
don't know
talking
that.
about?
You don't know that at all.
Also, Lee Na versus Novak
talking
Djordjevic, but she was given a
You don't-
a handicap.
You're trying to say he doesn't care, he doesn't know, and that's not true.
This is so dumb.
I don't give a shit.
I know.
I mean,
No,
you
'cause you just
went off on the
dumb
fucking like,
shit.
bullshit. Like this.
Also, there was
dumb
the
as
Joe
well.
Canada versus Pat Cash. Joe Canada won, but again, he was in his 50s at the time. He wasn't in his prime. Like again, these are exhibition matches.
Yeah. We just want to
Yeah.
understand
I
the
just
context for him.
Hi guys.
Oh, he was in his
Hey,
50s at the time, and oh my fucking.
In the Joe Canada match, I was talking. That's why I literally.
Oh
I'm
my
literally saying
fucking
that.
god! And you said I cherry picked. Jesus Christ! You
I
fucking
gave you
backface.
4 different examples, and you cited a problem with the last one.
Oh my god!
And you're talking about cherry picking? You're talking about me cherry picking? I
Hold
gave
on.
4 examples.
Okay, so I'm looking at this right
You
now.
also
So battle of the sexes won. Bobby Riggs versus Margaret Court. Bobby Riggs
Oh my god!
fucking
Just scroll down. There's
destroyed
more
her.
records than just
And
the
then-
ones listed
wait,
there.
I'm going one by one.
You're
shut the
literally
fu-
reading from the
I'm
Wikipedia
going,
page. I know what you're doing.
I'm
Scroll
going
down.
one by one. Shut the fuck up. For
I
2
can read the
seconds,
Wikipedia
please.
page too. Scroll down, buddy. There's more matches than the ones listed in the top right corner.
I'm going. Okay. And Ernest versus Lottie. Okay. So battle of the sexes 2. There was Billie Jean King versus.
Okay, so you're just gonna
Bob-
read stats at me
Yeah,
that
I'm
I've already
not gonna
cited.
sit here and listen to you read the fucking
Oh
Wikipedia page. Mute yourself if you're gonna do that shit out loud. Like that's
I'm
not.
trying to go through every single match. I'm trying to go through every single match so that we can analyze.
But you're
each
only
one and
looking
go
at the
through-
stats in the upper right-hand corner of the Wikipedia page instead of scrolling down to later matches.
Which one? No, I want to ask Empress.
Channel. We're not going to sit here listen to you analyze each individual match one after the fucking other. The fact is that there are sports in which women do better than men. The fact
Very
is
few.
that
Yes, I don't disagree with that.
Okay, good. I'm glad. Like some people did. All right. There are sports in which women do better than men. There are sports in which men do overwhelmingly better than women. There are sports in which they are relatively equal, like fucking diving, for example. Right? Like the idea that like women cannot compete against men is ridiculous for starters.
They can, but in very few games. Like extremely few. Like it's not that many. Like,
No, it's not bullshit. It's not bullshit.
how many sports do you want to go through? We can go through every single one of them, and I will absolutely destroy you, Vivian. We can do it right now. I have like 6 hours. I can actually debate this for hours. I will fucking destroy you.
Got no work to go to, do you?
I work at home. I literally made like $600 today from fucking Forex. Fuck off, all right?
Yes, you carried it out. Fucking pussy. So don't be like, oh, I can fucking destroy you on this. You should have fucking taken up the gauntlet when you had the chance, all right?
Wait, what? Wait, hold on. Say that again? Say that again?
I said, don't be sitting there going, oh, I can fucking destroy you on this, when, like, you could have taken up the fucking gauntlet to do just that. But now I'm fucking debating Gambit, probably, in a couple of days.
Hold on. I literally said I would debate you now, you fucking idiot. We can do it right now. I'll do it right now. I have, like 6 to 10 hours. Let's fucking go, Vivian, please. Oh, my fucking God.
Wait. Okay. What are we doing?
I have, like, 6 hours. We could go right now. Okay, so...
What's the proposition that one person is positive on and the other person is negative on?
All right, so I'm arguing that like in most sports, which would let's say like 70% of sports, men do better than women. I'll just like throw out numbers game.
Okay, so what you've just done there, right, is you've lost yourself the debate immediately by pulling a number out of fucking thin air out of your fucking ass, going, I bet women can women lose in 70% of sports compared to men, right? When you don't even know that that's the fact, you haven't even looked at the
because I'm so confident that I'm right. I will give you this handicap because I know I'm gonna win anyways. Don't try to dodge it. And you said I'm dodging.
Can we just at least
we can let each other speak, or we can waste each other's time, right? So if you're gonna waste our times by not letting Vivian speak,
wait, Empress, don't do that. He was literally trying to lay his argument out, and Vivian interrupted him, saying, "I don't care. I don't like your argument. You don't have facts." She didn't let him finish, right? So like, don't do that. Like, this is bullshit.
I let him finish.
She literally let him finish. She tried to respond to the proposition, saying why the proposition was incredibly flawed.
You don't get to decide when somebody.
He literally was done. He expressed the proposition.
That was done. Yeah.
He gave a percentage that sounded
even he's saying he was done.
I took that percentage out of my ass because I'm so confident that I win anyways. Okay, I don't fucking care. 70%. Let's go.
So here's the problem, right? Because all I have to do to defeat that proposition is to show that men don't outperform women in exactly 70% of sports. Like, and I'm pretty sure we could just fucking do that right now. It'd be like a 30-second debate, which I'd win.
Probably more than 70%. Actually.
So
it might be more than 70% of sports, but I would still win the fucking debate, wouldn't I?
What?
So
you wouldn't win the debate. You would get him on.
Yeah, he's saying it's 70%. Yeah. Well, he's saying his proposition is at 70%, so it's more or less than 70%. His proposition's wrong. Because you're
wait, hold on.
I'm going to.
If it's more, I win. Hold on, what? If it's more, I win. What the fuck? What is that bullshit?
No, Vivian. Instead of saying it's easy to dispatch with his point, just dispatch with it so he can move on to his next.
I just did, Gambit.
Okay,
you didn't dispatch. Wait, hold on. You didn't. Wait, hold on. We have to go through every single sport. You realize that, right? How many sports? How many sports do you want to go through?
For that, I'll allow you to compile the data, and you can tell me whether men outperform women in exactly 70% of sport. And if once
I never said exactly. First of all,
well,
I said at least 70.
You said 70% or more, then shouldn't you? Like if you can't.
I
even
said
tell me
at
what-
least 70%. Vivian, I said at least 70%. I
yeah,
am
you're
literally
changing his
recording right now, but okay. Like we can go back. Like
You're-
I am
you're
streaming
changing his
right now.
argument,
Like
Vivian.
I can we can go back and I can prove you wrong right now.
And how are you defining outperform? By the way,
we can
is
go by.
outperform like the best of the best do more, or is outperform
the
like
best disproportionate?
We gotta go sport. It
What is that?
it changes sport
whatever
by
the standard of
sport.
Sport is. Yeah, by the standard. of
I
sport,
told you.
like,
I
javelin,
have like hours for this. We can literally spend hours going through each sport. I will actually do it. Okay. Do you have that time?
So frankly, I don't actually care. I don't think that is pertinent to the fucking discussion.
Okay,
whether
so
or not
she's dodging. Fine.
Wait, whether or not men outperform women in the vast majority of sports, right? I couldn't care if it's like fucking 90%. It wouldn't make a blind bit of difference to whether or not sports should be segregated by gender or not.
So you're dodging.
No, that's not true. That's why it's segregated.
No,
That's
it
why.
is-
And you said I was dodging the fucking debate. Jesus Christ! All right, fine.
I also want to add information to y'all.
All
No,
I
but
have
Vivian-
to do. Shut up, Gambit. All I have to do.
No, stop
all I
talking
have to
shit
do-
and actually go through it. All I have to do, actually do it. Actually do it.
This is so fucking childish. Can I please finish what I'm saying? All I would have to do, right, is find another trait, another attribute, right, which has a larger gap for people who are of like I said earlier, height, right? If I compare people who are like 6 foot versus people who are 4 foot, why don't we segregate that way? Like you're
That's
trying
not
to make
that's
out
not the
like gender
debate
is
I was trying to have.
Well,
Now you're trying to change. Now you're trying to change the fucking debate. The debate I was asking, like my point was that men versus women, men do better in at least 70% of sports.
What does do better mean?
It changes sport by sport.
Okay, I'm gonna even
Okay,
give you
okay,
that,
but what
and I'm
does
gonna
it-
still say,
what does
why
it
the
mean?
fuck do you need to bring in? Why the fuck do you need to bring in
Yeah.
70% in this dichotomy? Why do you need to do that when the entire original thing was, why don't we segregate based on something besides sex? So what is the actual
Obviously
argument
you weren't
are
listening to me earlier at all in any way, shape, or form.
At
So
all.
I'll say it once again. I already said to me the best way to separate like sports is by sex and also by weight and height. I never I never said just separated but by sex. Anyone who says otherwise is just lying.
No,
Jesus.
it's fine. It's fine. This is a good subject. How do we determine sex?
Determine sex. As well.
Yeah, how do we do it? How do we find out what sex an individual athlete is? How do we do
Well,
that?
this goes on to what your category is for like male or female, right?
Yes,
so
yes, absolutely. How do we
so
determine? Yeah, how do we find out what sex an individual athlete is?
so
They make you.
I would
provide
argue
birth certificate with the-
doctors are like, unless we think doctors are like usually wrong on this, I would argue that like what doctors say is like the assigned sex at birth usually is the right
What
at least, right?
What indicators do doctors use though? Do you know?
Usually penis and or vagina, right?
Oh, so genitalia determines sex then.
Most of the time,
That's what you
like,
just said.
over-
So I hope that's the claim that you're staking.
It's not okay. Hold on. So obviously, sex
There are
means
outliers, but we agree
so
that
sex means
generally-
more than just penis
Yes,
or
generally.
vagina.
but we're talking
Yes,
about
but
elite sport here, so outliers are going to be overrepresented. The idea that somebody is an outlier doesn't really fucking apply to this. So you have to divide all people who want to compete and are able to compete at the elite level into two categories, male and female. How do you do it? What are the determinants? If you say genitals, you and I both know that's a really shit argument, right? So
Why?
Why?
It's well, okay,
Because
hold on.
they're
It's
because of the numerous fucking chromosomal and sexual developmental disorders that cause drastic differences in biology between people who are ostensibly or who have the same genitalia.
Okay, you're saying that there are people who are who
Yes,
don't
Catholic
easily
are
fit
really
into those categories. But that's not the
GSU, can you please stay out of this conversation?
No, but that's
You're
not the-
debating her
that's
later.
not the
I don't want to
topic of
have
this conversation.
Oh my god. Okay.
The
If we're
topic of this conversation aren't like genetic anomalies.
Yeah,
What
it kind of
the fuck?
Yes, they
Yes,
are.
are. What do you think elite athletes are, you
I wanna
fucking
die.
dipshit?
No, you're not.
This is
listen.
why I didn't want to have
No,
GSU in
no,
this
you
conversation.
can't hear.
Oh my god.
Like
What do you
y'all are
think
so
people who are in the
ideologically
top
dumb
1%
that you can't
of
hear.
athletes are? Do you think they're not genetic abnormalities?
All right. If you're gonna debate GSU, I'ma just leave. But like,
No,
I
they're not.
I kind of want to just wait. What?
They're not, no, the differences
Oh,
that
okay.
we generally see between male and female in sports performance are not genetic abnormalities. They're regularities.
What? I never said anything about that. You
That's the point of this argument.
I
That's
never. No. The point. Okay, look. I still haven't got a fucking answer to the question because everybody keeps butting in. So, how do we determine who is male and female if we're going to separate sports by those categories?
Okay,
How do we
can
make
I
that
answer?
determination?
Can I answer?
XGC Casino. How do we make that determination?
Okay,
With
so
their birth certificate. That's literally how it's done.
Oh my fucking GSU, please! You're gonna
I will
debate her
debate you in
later.
another day.
You're gonna debate her later. Please let me just have this conversation. Like you're literally making it hard because okay. So even though like people will be mad when I say this, usually genitalia is perfectly fine for like 99% of people. Even though there are like intersex people, we can look at stats right now. Aren't they like less than 1% of like the current population we have?
Okay. How much of the current population? How much of the current population are currently elite athletes?
About 1%. Or
Cool.
like, maybe.
There's significant evidence to suggest that that a large amount of like elite female athletes do have sexual developmental disorders. Is it fair that they continue competing in the female category even though they're overrepresented?
I'm not.
There was a woman who was literally
I don't-
sterilized because she had too high of testosterone in her
Yeah,
blood.
I don't.
But we weren't
agree
doing
with
it by
that.
testosterone, which is a shame because I love having the testosterone argument. We were doing it by genitals, which is even worse, honestly.
I don't think that we should like exclude women from like women's sports just because they have like higher testosterone or like other quote unquote like abnormalities.
I agree.
That, like,
Testosterone
make
is a
them
really
better.
shit way of dividing sport. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially when they're doing like blood serum testosterone. That's fucking terrible.
Okay, so I think that even though some
That's how
people
we currently do it, by the way.
even though some people will be fucked over no matter what we do, like literally any choice we make will fuck over some people, I would argue that like
Wait,
the
what
best
does fuck over some people mean?
Huh?
How does it fuck them over? Does it
Okay.
fuck them over
Because
they-
if we
Yeah.
allow like let's just say that like we allow trans people like right now to just compete in whatever sport that they identify, or not sport, gender they say
Sounds good. That's my
they are, right?
proposal.
So okay,
Yeah.
so we could do that, but like you have to admit that like some male to female athletes will like dominate their area, right? Because they were so okay, so
some athletes dominate already. Michael Phelps, for example, with this fucking abnormal frame, like he fucking dominates swimming.
Okay, so
I don't see why we're going to discriminate against
No, I'm
endogenous testosterone rather than like these other attributes which seem to have a much greater weight.
So all I'm trying to argue is that like no matter what we do, no matter who we allow to play with who, somebody
people are gonna get over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you. So the goal,
well,
so
let
the
me
goal-
finish. Let me finish.
Fucking hell.
There's a part 2 to that. Okay, so I would argue that with my current system, even though like women who aren't like abnormal and like their genes might get fucked over because of my categories of sex, weight, and height. I think not only would that be better than like what we have now, I also think it would be.
I'm not interested in the weight and height thing. I think that's probably all right. But like, I want to specifically argue around the sex thing. That's okay.
Okay, I guess if you want, like, just okay.
I think a decently hard example to look at is the UFC with Fallon Fox and things like that. Like that's
okay. Well, Fallon Fox won like what was it, 4 matches in middling ranks, and then got knocked the fuck out. Okay, the Fallon Fox is a bad example to bring up, like most of the people actually that people bring up as anti-trans arguments. They're almost always fucking bad examples because nobody actually looks into it. Oh, a trans woman won once, therefore trans women have an unfair advantage. Surely if there's no unfair advantage, they should still win occasionally, right?
I should have said this like a while ago too, but also like I've had this in like earlier debates actually, where like somebody brought up like unregulated leagues where like literally anybody can just go in, and I actually think that like with my system, we could have like the two separated by sex and then also weight and height, and then also have like a third group, which is like completely unregulated, where like literally anybody can compete. So like no matter who you are,
sure. You can
still do something, right?
We're still arguing about like how to segregate sport, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. But I think in order to know how you should segregate sport, we need to know why you should segregate sport, right? So you're currently saying that this is best because I assume your proposal is that it will be the most inclusive to the most amount of people, right? You said earlier, no matter what you do, some people are going to get fucked over. So ideally, the goal that we should strive for is the least amount of people being fucked over, right?
Yes.
Yeah, basically. And I would argue that like even if we do kind of fuck over trans people, like they're a very small minority, and also sports, like I don't like it's not that big of a minus in your life to like not be able to compete at like top level in like a sport.
Not for me, but it probably is for somebody who's spent all their fucking life training and like working towards this goal.
True, but that's
Like,
also
I'm not a
what
fucking elite athlete, but, you know.
non-trans women are concerned about, right?
Sorry, what was that?
No, we're concerned about most trans people are concerned about children being segregated by what is in their pants. And the fact that this always gets brought back to elite sports when we've already established the bell curves that intersect, as well as Vivian's excellent point about outliers being overrepresented in high elite sports, we have come to the conclusion that yes, there are sexual dichotomies, but what is actually important in this always gets lost because y'all want to have a big debate bro argument and debate people when you don't actually realize that this actually fucking affects people. And that's why I don't actually normally come into these spaces, because y'all literally want to make people's lives and how people live and play something as simple as sports into something that you can win over. And it makes me fucking sick.
That's not what's happening.
I mean, stay mad, but okay.
So you don't
That's
have
not what's
any
happening.
arguments ever. You literally just say whatever the fuck comes to your mind, and you never have an argument. You're just like, no, that's wrong, every single fucking time.
We haven't really been able to engage on it. It's just, it's not. There is.
It's because you don't.
I think there's insurmountable evidence that men have a physical advantage over women, or biological males have a physical advantage over. I think.
Yeah,
well,
Brent,
that's the entire point, and that's the concept. Hold on, Vivian. Let me just speak because Johnny was speaking to me. But like, that seems like too great of an advantage to ignore, and it doesn't feel like that line can be dissolved without basically being unfair. And I think men and women have developed sports as they are because they recognize the advantages.
Fuck the 90% of people who are too short to play basketball, by the way.
Any example I give you is just going to be like an anecdote or something, right? Essentially, I just don't think that Well, I do know in like running, men can run farther.
We're talking
and
about
faster
trans
than women
people in
by large
sports
degrees.
right
Like
now.
this
Okay,
is
so we
a
have
this is like a
another
biological
person
difference,
saying
right?
that by and large women do better
women,
in long distance sports. So which one is correct? And I bet you don't fucking know, Brento.
No, I know.
Women
No, you do
outperform.
know? Okay, well then give me the fucking stats because we have an alternative argument over here and you just completely walked over it like it didn't fucking matter.
Women outperform men in ultra marathons. I'm just saying, Brento. Women outperform men in ultra marathons.
Okay, that's true. Okay, and what does that mean?
That means,
that means
women
that, like,
outperform men
his
in ultra
statement just
marathons.
now about men being able to run
Okay,
further
so
and faster than women, like, just isn't
Again-
true in all settings.
This is why I wanted to go over every single sport, because I would basically bet my life on this. That, like, if we go through literally every single sport, men will dominate at least 70%. And I was lowballing there. It's probably actually like 85 to 90%, if not even more. Okay, like,
that's not going to counter anything I've said. Look, when I first came into the conversation, okay, I said that as a generality at the elite level, men outperform women by about 10%. As a generality across all sports, there are sports in which women outperform men, right? So I've already pretty much admitted that to you. Right.
Okay.
However,
so
like,
why
the
were you
further
trying
down-
to debate me on it then? What the fuck?
However, the further down you go, right, along this kind of curve, the closer that gets, right? At the amateur level, men and women, there isn't like a huge amount of difference between them, right?
Okay.
This is what the statistics show.
Okay.
Cool.
What's your point?
I don't actually care, like 90% of the time at the fucking elite level, if like men outperform women, right? Because we can divide, like you said, by like weight and by height and by other things that are going to make it so that like more people can compete, right? My goal is ultimately to include as many people from as many different demographics as possible who can compete at the elite level and who can be successful
Unregulated league, yeah.
in the arena of sport, right?
Yeah,
And I
so
don't think
that's
that,
why
like, individual demographics, such as trans people, right, should be essentially excluded from elite sport. I think excluding any individual demographic based on based on something as ridiculous as the idea that trans women are somehow destroying women's sport, I think that is a moral outrage. I think that's
And
morally wrong to
you
do.
see, that's
right?
why
Because it's not happening.
That's why I advocate for like unregulated leagues, right? So that way, like no matter who,
Yeah, but
who
you're
you are, you
advocating
can still.
trans women compete with men and trans men compete with women. That's what it means when you say you want to segregate based on their fucking genitalia,
They
and that's
can
an assault
still-
on their
it's-
basic fucking human dignity.
I mean, you can say that, but like, I
Well,
don't
that
know,
means
like,
that they are viewed as the gender they identify as in every public area, apart from in this one, in which you want to discriminate and say that a trans woman is a man and a trans man is a woman, right? And that's essentially what you're doing.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
well, okay, do
every
you-
other public area is sort of based on like a social acceptance, but it feels like physiology proves out a biological difference in direct physical competition.
Wait,
There are biological differences between all kinds of women.
Vivian-
There are biological differences between black women and white women, but we don't segregate that way.
That's
Okay?
true.
There
Real
are
quick-
biological differences between tall women and short women, fat women and skinny women, women with fucking like big hands and women with
That's
small hands.
why I said sex and weight and height.
And sometimes these differences are particularly relevant to the sports that they're playing in. In fact, if you look at the elite level, it's very likely that those genetic advantages that those women have are going to be very, very pertinent to the sport that they're playing in, right? So if we don't segregate by any of these other fucking attributes, if we don't say, hey, well, no short women can ever play in the WNBA, so like we need to segregate by short
That's
and
not
tall.
my argument. Why do you keep
we
saying
go,
this?
trans women, we're going to have to segregate by trans and not trans women?
I literally just went over how I want to separate by sex and by weight and height. Why do you keep saying that I don't want to do that? I literally do. I just like
because it's still an affront on their fucking dignity. I don't believe that the segregation by sex is necessary.
It
right?
okay.
The
Hold on.
segregation
You know what?
by height and dependent on the sport, dependent on what fucking traits are relevant to the sport that they're playing. Perhaps you can work out some kind of segregation system. However, you're still kind of stuck on the on the fucking sex thing, and it doesn't seem like
you know
to
what?
me like fucking relevant to
Send me.
your event.
Okay, wait. Send me this source you have where like in amateur sports, men and women like it's not as big, because I'm pretty sure even though it's not as big, men still do better, right?
Overall, it depends on the sport. The gap is much closer at the amateur level than the elite level.
But overall, do men still do better? Yes or no?
It depends on the sport.
Yes
in
or
many
no?
Sports, yes.
Overall,
in, some sports, no.
in most sports, I'm asking in most sports,
As
do
a
men?
generality overall sports, I couldn't tell you. Probably.
Is it above
Okay.
50%?
Wait, just send me the source. Where's the source? I'm asking for the
can I
source.
ask you a question?
There you have. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm being really good faith here, and I'm trying to be patient with you. I know I've been a little bombastic tonight because I got excited because I got to talk about something that I was passionate about. And also it kind of hurts when people talk about it in a way that like acts like I don't actually exist. But anyway, what I'm trying to figure out is when you win, or if you win, because Vivian is incredibly smart and I think you're underestimating her. When you think that you win with this particular debate, which is most sports are dominated by men, whereas we've already sort of established that most men have a sexual dichotomy that is superior to most women. So what is the point that you want to get across when you are having this debate? Do you just want to be right? I'm genuinely asking, do you just want to be right about something we've already said you're basically right on, about the 70% mark? Or do you genuinely want men and women to be entirely segregated by sex? Like, what is the actual argument that you want to
mean, unless you're trying to call me,
I know
like
you want to be right about the 70% thing, but what do you actually believe?
I mean, unless you're trying to call me like a grifter, yes,
I'm
I
not
actually
calling you
believe
shit. I'm
what
asking
I'm
you a
saying.
question in good
That's
faith,
that's what
motherfucker.
you're implying, you fucking idiot.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you.
When you
I don't think she was, dude.
Okay,
I
so
don't think they
all
were.
right, so yes, I actually believe what I'm saying. All right, I'm not a grifter.
Okay, thanks. That's your proposition.
And yes, I would like in any debate I have, I'm actually like advocating for the type of world that I want to live in. Okay.
That's what I'm asking.
And for anyone to like, I don't know, assume otherwise is kind of insulting, to be honest. But yeah, like.
Fuck you. I don't know you.
I don't know you either. Okay, I don't know you either. What the fuck?
I'm just, bruh, if you can't take me being a little bit over the top and just calling you a fucker because there's no law that says I can't call people and myself a fucker,
When did
then
I
you're
ever
probably gonna get
say?
your feelings hurt a lot,
When
and
did
I'm
I
sorry about that.
ever say that you can't do that? All I said was that it's slightly insulting. Holy shit! Like, calm down.
All right,
But
well,
yeah.
I'll give you that you're insulted. I don't think you should be, but whatever.
Oh, I mean, when you attack someone's like core beliefs, I mean, who
You a
wouldn't be
question.
insulted there, right? Like,
I asked you a fucking question because I don't know you.
I guess. All right, fine. Anyways,
Good.
yes, I do believe that women and men should be separated, and that also these sports should also be separated by weight and height, and also if you want, I actually would
To be fair,
be
not women,
very.
not women and men. Penises and vaginas at birth.
It's okay if you want to call it that, but yeah. Okay, so
Well, no, I do want to call it that because it's pretty fucking important.
and then also I would actually I might actually start watching more sports if we get like a unregulated league where like anybody can go in with like doping.
Yeah, it's called
and,
American
like, literally.
Ninja. It's also called Ninja or whatever the fuck they call it in
Ninja
Japan.
Warrior.
Yeah, American
don't-
Warrior. That's it.
Don't they? Wait, you can dope in that?
What the doping? No, men competing against women, dude.
I was talking about an unregulated league where there's like no rules on like hormone
no rules
hormone
on doping?
levels. Or, like yeah.
What the fuck? You're gonna have people kill themselves and be sterile for your sport? Really? I'll make you the
I mean, okay, hold on. Can we? This is like another thing that I hate. Being sterile isn't like a bad thing. Just stop. Like
No, being sterile is a bad thing.
unironically, I wish
Wait,
I was sterile. Okay, please.
No, fuck the sterile. There's so many bad effects to doping, and creating an arena in which people are like coerced to fucking, do that shit.
If
to their
people
fucking
want to
bodies.
do that to their bodies, I'm perfectly fine with that. What the fuck? Who are you to tell me that like I shouldn't be able to dope to like perform at like my actual limit? Who the fuck are you to tell me that? They're like, oh, you can't do that. What the fuck?
Well, I'm not anybody, but I'm
The point
interested. Like that's
the point
actually an
isn't about like whether you can or whether you can't. The point is about whether you are incentivized to do so, right?
Okay, I don't
Like we
feel.
recognize there are coercive influences in society just at large, and especially
and?
in areas of society that are overly competitive, like sport. So the idea that we would allow certain things that cause people to fucking like just keel over and die, or like suffer severe fucking physical effects.
If people want to do that, I want to let them be able to do that. Yes, I don't.
No, I shouldn't let them do that. It's irresponsible, man. People have to take more care of themselves than that. Not for sport. People shouldn't die and get hurt for sports like that. They can if they will, but you shouldn't encourage it.
Wait,
You shouldn't be like, yeah, it's fine. It's not okay.
Okay, so like, are you
it's not
for?
even just like,
Wait,
oh, you
Vivian.
can. It's
What's your take on
basically,
drugs?
If you want to be able to compete in this area, you have to. Not
It's
just
a heroin
if you can.
Wait,
It's
Vivian.
not
like the
influence.
legalize
Vivian.
everything and give people.
What's
the
your take on drugs?
To bring them back from an OD argument. Like
It's
that's
just like-
that's something I have a problem with too.
I guess I just want to say, like, you should always tell someone in football to wear a helmet, because if you don't, you might just end up with a lot more brain damage, and you just wear a fucking helmet, right? You should take care of people in sports.
In regulated leagues, we have rules like that. I'm just
on drugs
saying
is
that like
probably
I would.
not fucking. We should probably not criminalize them. In general, people should be able to do what they want, but we absolutely shouldn't set up an area of society in which people can make more money by taking more and more dangerous drugs. Like, that's not a society in which I want to fucking live.
I mean, I'm not really scared of that society, honestly. Like I
mean, you
I don't
you wouldn't
think
be
it's
somebody who like sees it as like as a choice that you would have, whereas
I don't-
like there's a whole bunch of people who wouldn't have as much of a choice.
I don't think it's morally wrong to allow people to I don't know,
Excel by
compete.
repeatedly stabbing themselves in the eyes. We should encourage this. Gladiatorial pit fights tomorrow.
Well, yes. Well, gladiators. Yes, I want to bring them back to yes as well. Yes.
Yes, gladiatorial pit fights. People fighting to the death for my
Wait,
amusement.
hold on. If
You know
well,
what? This is
it's not even just that. If
Actually,
who
as a person who wants to get on testosterone, I have wondered about how much that regulated testosterone affects, like the ability to actually, because I've never been on it. Honestly, I don't know how much that increases your actual physical abilities. Because, like, obviously, more testosterone in your blood is going to make it easier for you to build muscle. Like, I don't exactly know how that process works, but I know it works.
It depends on the person. It's down to your own biology, like how much testosterone you can uptake. I mentioned it earlier, like testosterone blood serum levels are a really bad way to judge ability, because it doesn't take into account that people uptake different amounts of testosterone, and testosterone has different effects on different people's bodies. Everybody's different. So, but generally you have like your base testosterone level, right? And then performance increases will happen up to a certain level if you increase that. That's
Okay.
basically it. Like, but it really depends, like person to person, like how much of a benefit you would get out of it.
Vivian, real quick, you're a socialist, right? I'm pretty sure you are, right?
I mean, I'm a socialist incidentally. I'm an anarchist, and my anarchism kind of leads me to believe that like socialism's probably the way forward, because capitalism sets up unjust hierarchies.
Okay, so if we had a utopia where like everybody's needs were met, and like we people weren't coerced by capital to like live, do you think that like people should be able to like if people decided to make their own gladiator league where like they fight to the death, should they be allowed to do that? Yes or no?
I don't know, and I'm never particularly interested in talking about utopias anyway, because the closer we get to them, the more problems are going to crop up.
Because
I don't advocate for a utopia. I advocate for a philosophical lens by which to try and solve problems.
The reason why I'm asking this is because I'm trying to figure out why you're against people like being gladiators, right? Like if it's just because of coercion.
Coercive incentive.
Well, yeah. So okay, so if I take away that like coercive thing, then like
Can
would you be
can you
fine
eliminate
for
any
it?
coercive influence? Is there not going to be like a certain degree of like social capital attached to this? Like, I don't know.
Well, I don't.
I can't even envision
I
the
don't think
society you're
the
talking
social.
about, so I can't analyze whether or not it would be a reasonable thing to promote. I'm not like super against two people who want to fight to the death, fighting to the death. Although I think it's a really fucking stupid thing to do. I would be very, very wary of any system that we set up which coerces people into thinking that this is a particularly good idea or that this is going to produce great results for them.
I mean, the social capital argument. I don't like people being able to lay their lives down for like I don't know glory. I don't see anything wrong with that necessarily, because like as long as your needs are met in like a world that like I want to live in, I think you should be able to like have.
This would definitely reduce the harm, but I can't even envision the society you're talking about. I don't know what it would look like. I can't correctly analyze the any coercive influences
I would
that might be
argue it's
present
not
in
that
such
far in the
society. I just can't answer the question. Like I think what you're talking about removes some of the things. What you're talking about removes some of the things that I would be worried about, but potentially there could be other things that would influence this that would make it bad. Like, I
mean,
So
in a
I-
world without money, and a world where like people's lives are like pretty good, like I would argue that like gladiatorship would be like even moral actually, because like people should be able
I
to
don't
have.
think we should be like killing other people for entertainment. That strikes me as an inherently immoral thing.
Why?
Yeah, that's kind of like a grotesque excess, like to sacrifice human life for entertainment. It's
Why?
Not healthy.
Why?
Because you're valuing the entertainment. You're valuing the entertainment above a human life, and so you don't understand what's important.
I just
But
you're
if
making
well,
stupid choices.
Well,
if
it comes
those
down to
if those people
axiomatically
chose
valuing human life, right? And so the idea that we ought to enjoy seeing human life being taken away is antithetical to that axiomatic belief. And I can't justify that we ought value human life. That's simply an axiom.
if
True.
If those people decided that they want to do this and like they weren't like coerced or like forced into this, I would argue that like it's perfectly fine to like watch people fight.
I cannot envision
right?
a
Like-
society in which these people have no coercive influences on them to do this, right? Especially if they're doing it for an audience. Simply doing it for an audience in order to gain social prestige is a
I don't-
coercive influence.
I don't
I mean,
think
if you
okay.
think about it this way, well, think
even
about it,
if that's true, I don't think like social status
Think
is
about old gladiators, right? Old gladiators, they're not like aristocracy. They're not even like merchants. They're all slaves. They made slaves fight to the death in the Colosseums because they are treated as disposable people. No one whose life is worth anything or worth anything to anyone else just goes and fights to the death every night for their life. It doesn't work like that. Like, that's not a life.
Gladiators were pretty highly priced, but
Yeah, as slaves.
yeah.
Right.
Because they could make a lot of money for their masters.
Exactly.
I mean,
But,
I'm not
I-
talking about slaves fighting though, right? I'm like,
Yeah, no, that's fucked up. I think like the vast majority of people wouldn't want to do this, and any society who wants to watch people be fucking killed for entertainment, I think is an inherently unhealthy society that doesn't hold to the axiomatic value that I'm talking about in valuing human
I don't
life.
think
right?
that's true. Actually, I think that you can like see like human life as like sacred and like not want to kill like other people in your own life, and like would like help other people just because they're people, but still enjoy like watching gladiators, right?
We ought avoid the taking of human life and the inflicting of suffering whenever another option is.
It's only
possible.
suffering from your point of view, though.
Well, no, I mean it's pretty fucking demonstrably suffering. If somebody stabs you in the fucking face, dude, like you're gonna suffer.
Well,
Like,
suffering.
we should probably avoid that if we can help it. Like,
I mean,
if there's
some
another option, probably
you
take
bad
it.
about it.
I mean,
And when I say objectively, I simply mean that pretty much everybody on this fucking planet would view that as being like something that they don't enjoy, right?
Depending on the context, like warriors back in like thousands of years ago would argue that like the best way to die is like on the battlefield, right? Like or like
But you're talking about
But
an
that's still
excess. You're talking
suffering.
about like a
This is
sport
like-
versus a battlefield where they literally
Yeah,
don't have a choice because you set up,
the sport
Yeah,
could
but you
also
set
be
up
the
idea that this is okay because people are not being coerced, but war is inherently coerced.
the sport
they
could
didn't-
also
they
be
didn't-
the battlefield,
They didn't
though,
value
right?
dying on the battlefield because they enjoyed being stabbed in the face, right? They had like, for one, this is mostly mythological anyway, outside of very few, very specific cultures. Like, you know, even, oh shit. Even in the sagas, like they wrote about like the horrors of war and how fucked up it really was, right? So like the idea that like, for example, Viking society is like, oh, you have to die on the battlefield to go to Valhalla. It's like that was like a small part of their religion, but they still recognized that war was really fucked up and involved a lot of suffering. Like, I hate these stupid fucking historical arguments based on like basically mythological understandings of ancient cultures.
Well, it's more about like look, I just want people to have full control over their body and like their life and like what they can do with it, right? This is why I'm for legalizing all drugs, and also, well, this is my hottest take. I don't think all people who are committing suicide should be stopped as well, because I think that like
I don't
some
even want to talk about that subject if that's okay.
fine, yeah, because like I think someone should have like full complete control over like their life and like what they can do with it, because I don't think that you can just
We'll
like,
see how much your opinion changes on that when you've lost a couple of friends to suicide. I'll just say that much.
I mean, he did try to walk it back, Viv. He was like, you said you weren't comfortable talking about that, and he sort of walked it back to, okay, while you are a person and you're on this earth, like, yeah, you know, do whatever you want with the life that you've been given. Like, I think that that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's largely correct, but there's that's the way he's viewing it is incredibly fucking simplistic and completely ignores the influences that other people have on people, right? The idea that we have complete free will, which is what this particular proposition rests upon, right? Autonomy is the exercise of one's free will. Like, it just doesn't exist.
I didn't wait.
Like,
hold on, you were attacking my argument. Let me respond.
And I'm so sorry because I'm about to head out because but I'm trying to steal my feet here. So, I think that you do have the absolute ability to do whatever you're going to do. That is, providing that you are an able-bodied person and you can, you know, think of the thing to do and get up the will to do it. You have that absolute ability, and the other side of that coin is. And that's a whole other conversation that you could have in tandem, which is, are other people in the wrong for stopping you? Are other people in the wrong for trying?
I'm done with this. Sorry, I'm moving on.
I'm still going. This is good talking. Good talking, y'all. I'm gonna hop on the rowboat waiting room. There's a lot of people in there who might be talking about the same shit. So I don't know. I'll see you then.
Unlikely, but yeah.
Bye.
Nice to meet everybody.
Bye, you guys.
Well, you still there? Guess not. All right. Launch the robot, I guess.
most male sports.
Actually, wait. Yeah, hold on. We'll take a break. I wanted to talk about that more, honestly. Sorry, I wasn't really talking to chat that much. I was too into the debate we were having. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just I don't think like if it's literally just social gratitude, or like what's it called, like in a world where like the only coercion is like people liking you, or like people seeing you as like an awesome person because you're a gladiator. I don't think that's like a bad enough coercion to like stop people becoming gladiators, right? Yeah, I don't know. If anybody in chat wants to talk about it, we can. What were we talking about? I don't understand her argument, bro. We went from talking about trans people. Yeah, we did. Let's see. I think if they have gone through enough hormone therapy, then okay, more trans stuff. I don't know. Let's go to the rowboat.
Or required to cling and jerk and lift a weight is the same strength and power difference that you're going to see when it comes to running football. When it comes to running track.
No, it's not. No, it's absolutely not.
Yeah. You know what? I'm convinced. You know,
An explosive power lift is going to be like so different to like a marathon run in terms of like muscles activated.
Never mind. They're still talking about trans people in sports. I think I'm done with it. That topic for now. Good debate. Good podcast. It went on a lot longer than I thought it was. As always, people in chat, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and Patreon. Subscribe, join, follow, all this shit. I'm about to get off for a bit to eat some lunch and watch some YouTube and shit, because I am fucking starving. I'm fucking hungry. I think I'm going to raid you guys into Killer Melody, and I hope... Hold on. I'm a bad fucking streamer. I'm looking for the tab right now. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to raid you guys into Killer Miller stream. Killer Melody. There we go. Hope you guys have a... What? Oh, fuck. Raid Killer Melody. Fucking A. There we go. Fucking A. I'm a bad streamer. Don't worry about me. But yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your day. I'm gonna head out for a bit. I'm fucking hungry. And yeah, enjoy the content from Dusty. Bye-bye.